And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Prado versus Hawkins. Step forward.
23-year-old DJ Daniel Prado is suing his former friend, 24-year-old home healthcare aide Gina Hawkins, for non-payment of services rendered. Daniel claims he was the DJ at Gina's wedding and has yet to be paid.
Mr. Prado, it is your claim that the defendant owes you for performing DJ services at her wedding. You performed those services according to you. She didn't pay you, and you want your money. Ms. Hawkins says that you were a guest at her wedding, that there was never any agreement to pay you for the DJ services. That was sort of a gift. That's your defense. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When were you married?
June 19th.
Where?
At the Holiday Inn Airport.
When did you take the venue for the wedding? Just a second. We're going to need that fly swatter here. Yes.
On 03/04 of 04.
March of 04. So 3 months in advance.
Well, that was the last payment.
Go. Give it to me. You're not fast enough.
You were talking to him.
Okay. So you bought a wedding dress?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you order that?
About a year and a half.
And when did you order your invitations?
6 months prior, I believe.
And how much in advance did you send out the invitations?
6 or 8 weeks in advance.
Okay, so I have a little background now. When were you contacted by Miss Hawkins with regard to providing DJ services?
About a week before the wedding, she called me and said, I don't have a DJ, I need the DJ. Do you think you'll be able to do it? And how much would you charge me for doing it?
How did you know her?
Something to say there.
Well, we've been college friends. We've known each other for about 4 years.
Were you invited to the wedding?
I did get an invitation on May the 11th.
Had you responded?
Yes, I did tell her that I would go.
How come you called a week before? You didn't have music for the wedding?
No, I didn't call a week before. He came over to my house in, I believe, March. In our dining room, with my husband as a witness, said that he would do the DJing as a wedding gift.
Had you ever heard him do his DJ bit before?
I knew he had other DJ projects, and we were friends, and it's something he wanted to do for me, and I agreed.
And that was 3 months before the wedding?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Mr. Prado.
Your Honor, during that time that she's talking about, I went to go and visit with her when she came into town, and she was talking about the wedding, but there was never a mention of me DJing at the party. She said she was going to find somebody else because she wanted me to be a guest at her wedding. So,
okay.
You know.
So tell me about the contract that you had, Mr. Prado.
Well, like I said, she called about a week, and she told me, you know, can you do this? What kind of rate would you be able to give me? I said, well, I'll give you a $300 package, which includes DJing, lighting, everything included, for $300.
And she said okay.
And she said okay.
And you say that was never the discussion. The discussion was before in your kitchen, 3 months before. He would like to do it. And you said fine, okay. You discussed it with your fiancé. That was good.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a videotape according to your answer that you want me to see?
Yes, and I also have pictures here that shows that he was dancing with my maid of honor, which he also dedicated a song called Baby Back.
I don't care.
Which was definitely inappropriate.
Listen, I have things to do. You want to show me the video?
Yes.
No.
Show me the video.
And this shows him acting unprofessionally.
Listen to me. I have eyes. I can see.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't editorialize. I'm not interested.
In the video, you can see him doing.
Oh, I love it. No, he's back there. That's very nice. He's just sort of encouraging everybody to dance. That's wonderful. And everybody looks like they're having a great time.
No, he's actually on the dance floor.
Listen to me. Who's that?
This is my husband, and he's throwing the garter. His uninvited brother touches the garter.
I don't care. Now turn it off. It's enough, please. It's enough. Mr. Prado.
Yes, ma'am.
Listen to me very carefully, sir. This is not a very difficult case. This is a case that deals with common sense. You know all the questions I asked Mrs. Hawkins before? This was a very well-planned wedding. She ordered her dress a year and a half in advance. She took the hall a year in advance. She ordered her invitations well in advance. And if I were to believe your story, I would have to believe that she waited until a week before her wedding to take care of the second most important thing after the groom that a bride thinks about, which is the music. Maybe the third, second being the dress. And Miss Hawkins seems like a very organized lady. She ordered everything well in advance, including the music. This is not a lady that waits until a week before to solidify the music for her wedding, Mr. Prado. Do we understand each other?
I understand, Your Honor.
Good. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
This is a wedding gift. It's something somebody does for you, and I didn't pay for him.
I trusted somebody and they abused me.
Bad memories, and that's it.
To do something for free, it's a waste.
Cindy Sullivan is suing fellow motorist, advertising strategist Anthony Nico Van Prague for damaging her car in a fit of road rage. Nico is countersuing, claiming Cindy shoved him off his motorcycle.
Yeah, this is case number 20 on the calendar in the matter of Sullivan versus Van Prague. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
I have a claim, Officer Byrd, and I have a counterclaim. And these two people were involved in an incident of road rage. Each one of them got a little out of hand. So Miss Sullivan is suing the defendant for damage she says he did to her car when he kicked her car with a boot, I assume, that boot. And then for having her falsely arrested for assault. Mr. Van Prague says she did in fact assault him. He is suing her for that. And he's also suing her for damage she did to his motorcycle. When she pushed him off the motorcycle, he lost control of it and it was damaged. They're going to try to explain to me by the use of these charts why each of them was right. You were driving your car, Miss Sullivan. You were coming from where? Show me.
I was coming from here and was stopped at the stoplight there.
Stopped at a stoplight. And then according to what I sort of put together in your complaint, you got a phone call.
Yes.
While you were stopped at the stoplight.
Correct.
And that phone call said that somebody you knew was taken to the hospital. You had to change direction.
Correct. Later on down the road.
Now, show me where you had to go after you got this phone call.
The phone call was complete before I moved my car. The light was red. I was in this lane. I was going to have to be in number 2 lane later down the road because I did not want to get on the freeway. I wanted to go straight to the hospital. There's quite a bit of traffic, so I knew it was going to take me quite a while to get over, so I put my turn signal on. You have to keep this clear. And there was congestion all over, so when the light turned green, there was one other car in front of me. It proceeded through when it was safe and could clear the intersection. I slowly started to go through. I accelerated when I see I could make it through the intersection. Just as I entered the intersection, I flashed, went by my driver's side, and then cut in front of me, right about here where the median is.
Okay. So what did you do?
I flashed my lights at him, kind of like to say...
Just a minute.
Yes?
He passed you.
Correct.
Safely passed you. Didn't hit you.
Correct.
And you could have just kept on going and meandered over to the right.
Correct.
But you chose to flash your brights at him.
Correct.
In an act of road rage.
If you want to interpret that way.
Well, that's what it is.
Okay.
You flashed your lights on, hoping to annoy him, because he, according to you, went around you too fast and cut in front of you.
There is not a lane of traffic where he passed me.
What happened next?
Well, I proceeded, someone let me in, so after I made it through the intersection, I made it into the number 2 lane.
Good.
Traffic was stopped. My car wasn't completely in the number 2 lane. It was kind of like at an angle, but I was completely in the number 2 lane.
Okay. What happened next?
Traffic was stopped. I had an SUV next to me. I saw the headlight of the gentleman's motorcycle come out from behind the SUV, so I assumed he was going to go between the two of us, as many motorcycles do. And then I heard and felt something hit my car. Mm-hmm. I immediately got out because I figured he hit my car trying to go between us. And I said, "What the hell are you doing?"
You didn't say hell.
Yes, I said, hell.
No, it's not even what you say here, you said to him. What are you doing? Okay, you said, what are you doing?
Well, I didn't say I used profanity, as we both did. He started yelling at me, saying I tried to kill him. He said he kicked my car to get my attention. Mm-hmm. And that he yelled that I tried to kill him. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, you're the one that did an evasive move in traffic through the intersection and cutting in front of me. You're the one that could have caused hurt. Okay? So words continued to go, just yelling back and forth. All I could see was his eyes and his mouth. He had a helmet on. And I saw something in his eye, and his whole body in the motorcycle came forward. And I just had a split reaction to defend myself. I put my hands out in front of me, extended my arms, and
you pushed
backed
him.
up. Correct.
Pushed him.
Correct.
Okay, and what happened when you pushed him?
He jumped off the bike.
Okay.
As I'm backing away, he went to lay the bike down. He had his hand on the handle, the grip, and as he laid it down, it kind of spun a little bit. It revved up. I saw the back tire turn. It made contact with the ground. The bike rotated once, twice. He reached back, and I guess it's the throttle or whatever, and stopped from revving. He started jumping around, yelling and screaming, and I continued to proceed to my car, backing up, got into my car. He yelled about calling the police. I said, go right ahead, and I'm going to. I wanted to leave the scene because I felt unsafe. I didn't know what he was going to do.
Where's Sullivan? Why did you get out of your car in the first place?
It's just reaction. I thought he hit my car. It was an accident. We need to get out and exchange information. I didn't know he did it aggressively.
Well, once you realized what it was, why didn't you quickly get back into your car instead of standing out there in the street with traffic all around you, screaming and yelling at him?
I don't know. I guess I wanted him to hear my side. He said I tried to kill him. I said, no, I didn't. You're the one that did something evasive and illegal.
Now, at some point, you say that police arrived and you told them your side of the story. You told them your side of the story. Is that right, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. But then the next day, you went to the police station.
Correct.
To file a supplementary report.
Correct.
Why?
Because when I came out, we had first looked, it was dark. They tried to look with a flashlight, and they couldn't see the dent in my car. You could see like the outline of a foot on each side. So when I came out the next morning, sun out, you could see the dent. So I went back to the police station just so they could put that in record that there was damage to my car.
All right. Can I see the initial police reports, please?
I had all the supplementals
Now,
attached. Do you
when
want
were
those?
you arrested for assault?
I wasn't arrested. I was charged.
Charged.
I received it in mid-April.
Good. Can I see it, please? It says that you did willfully and unlawfully use force upon a person, to wit, Anthony Von Prague. You did do that.
To protect myself, yes.
Well, I haven't heard protecting yourself. He didn't put his hands on you.
He had a 600-pound motorcycle that himself and the motorcycle moved towards me.
You say in your initial report to the police, you don't say that he lunged forward with his motorcycle. What you say is she got out of the car, she saw Von Prague. It's at one point she thought she saw Von Prague and his motorcycle lunge toward her. Out of instinct and self-defense, she put her hands out and pushed Von Prague on his right side. Okay? So you don't say that he moved the motorcycle. You say to the police, you thought he moved the motorcycle.
Okay.
I haven't gotten to him yet. Go.
Okay, Your Honor, I was proceeding in the number 1 lane here with my motorcycle. The defendant was trying to cross over into the number 3 lane, which is the northbound lane getting onto the freeway here, and she had blocked traffic essentially in all 3 lanes at this point. Her car, the majority of her car was in lane number 2, but the rear of her car was still sticking into lane number 1. I proceeded around the rear of her vehicle, opposite of her path of travel. There was about at least half the lane exposed there, and I continued on. The next thing I know, both my mirrors are filled with lights, and I look at my mirrors and I see a vehicle coming up about twice my speed, straddling the center line. So this vehicle had now gone in, come back into the number 1 lane and number 2 lane, and she went by me while swerving to the left slightly, and I was between the curb and the side of her car.
So she passed you.
No, she buzzed me. She went by me fast
I
and in my
understand
lane.
that. After, listen to what I'm saying, sir.
Yes.
You say she buzzed you.
Correct.
After she's shown her lights in your mirror.
Correct.
You say she passed you.
That is correct.
That's
yes.
all I want you to
Yes.
say. You say buzzed, I say
Yes.
passed. She passed you.
Went past my vehicle.
Right.
And she went by at such a high rate of speed, I actually felt the wind of her car through my armored pants. We came to a stop. Actually, she was in the number 2 lane, as she described. I was still in the number 1 lane. Her vehicle was very close to the center line. I don't think it was crossing over the line into the number 1 lane, but she was very close to me. And I was lined up with her rear quarter panel. I was yelling at her because I had no idea why she had just done this to me, why she had just nearly
Maybe
run.
she was a nut.
Maybe she was.
And what do you do when you come in contact with a nut and you're on a motorcycle and they're in a car?
Well, Your Honor,
what is the smart thing to do?
The smart thing to do would be just to proceed in the opposite direction.
That's
yes.
right.
That's right.
But
That's
you
right.
opted not to do that. You
No.
opted to tell her how dumb she was.
Well,
by getting her attention.
That is true.
By kicking her car.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. So I knocked on her car once.
No, I'm not finished with my...
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. As you would say, I acted badly.
Yes, you did.
And
perfect. Just to say, I have an acknowledgement that you acted badly.
I am willing to fess up in anything I've done in this situation. So
go ahead.
So at this point, I knocked on the car once with the side of my boot.
No. Listen, I want you to use the word that I'm going to use.
Kick. I kicked her car once with my boot.
He's always a fast learner.
Yes.
Right?
I kicked her car once with the side of my boot. This is the boot here.
All right, now that we've used the boot, could you put the boot on the floor, please?
Yes. I brought the other one in case you want them. So at this point, her door flew open. She came running up to my right-hand side, and I was still in the motorcycle. It's a 600-pound motorcycle. The motorcycle was in gear. Both hands were on the handlebar, and the kickstand was in the up position. And at this point, the traffic was just beginning to proceed, starting with the number 3 lane and starting to work its way over.
Okay.
So
the lanes weren't going anywhere because her car was stopped.
That's correct.
Go ahead.
Yes. So she comes flying out of her car. She says, "Why the F did you kick my car?" And I said, "Why the F did you try to kill me? What are you trying to do? You're trying to kill me." And she ran through the list of names, a-hole, et cetera, and I was sitting there. She was in an absolute rage. At this point, traffic was continuing to move. Cars were honking behind us. And I looked at her and I said, "Get back in your car, you fat bee."
Go ahead.
She looked at me, she started shaking, and
quiet!
And she shoved me as hard as she could from my right-hand side. Well, once she shoved me, the motorcycle went over, and at this point, I had to take my hand off the clutch, and that's why the motorcycle started spinning around in circles. I luckily had landed on my feet, and I said, "I'm calling the cops." I went over and got her license plate number even before I shut off the motorcycle, and went back, shut off the motorcycle. At this point, she proceeded to the number 3 lane, got onto the freeway, northbound. I called the police, and I told them what direction she was proceeding, and they went and sent a separate police car and went and chased her down and brought her back to the scene.
That's not correct.
Well, where were you stopped?
I went to the hospital, which is straight ahead. I did not get on 101 north or south.
So you went to the hospital?
Correct.
Go ahead.
I called Twin City Police Department, and they told me there were policemen on site to go ahead and return to the incident.
Okay, so you came back by yourself? Or
correct.
You came back by yourself?
She came back following a police car.
That is not correct.
Well, it is correct.
No, it is not correct.
She came back following the police car, otherwise she wouldn't even known where we were stopped.
I know exactly where the incident was.
Don't speak to him.
In talking to... I'm sorry.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Juddy Sullivan claims fellow motorist Nico Van Prague kicked a dent into the side of her car.
I'd like to see the damage done to your motorcycle.
These are the pictures of the damage, and this is the written estimate. Those pictures were taken the day after. As you'll see from the pictures, the corner of the side bag is ground flat, which confirms the fact that the motorcycle was in gear when it fell over. I also have an affidavit from the BMW dealer who inspected it.
Not necessary.
Okay.
Okay, now let me see the damage caused when Mr. Van Prague kicked your car, which you did, sir. Is that right?
This is the car.
Is that right?
I knocked her in her car once, yes.
You kicked her car. You didn't knock her with your tongue, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You kicked her with your boot.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you kicked her, and you were angry.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so you didn't tap her. You kicked it, and you caused a little dimple in her car.
I'll demonstrate to you that I don't have the ability of doing that with this boot or my ability of sitting on the motorcycle.
And how are you going to demonstrate that to me, sir?
Well, I have the boot here, and I also have photographs of me on the motorcycle with a kicking action. It's a very high motorcycle. It's 600 pounds. It has a 33-inch seat height, and I'm only 5'11", so I'm actually on my tippy toes when I'm sitting on the motorcycle. I have a very limited range of motion when I'm sitting on the motorcycle.
Unless you're really angry.
Well, even if I'm angry, Your Honor...
Can I see a picture of the whole car?
I will show you these pictures.
I'm sorry, I do not have one.
Well, where is this ding in your car?
I have estimates here, but it's in the rear driver's side of the vehicle.
Your Honor, that's a BMW 7 Series. It's very thick sheet metal. If I could do that with any boot, I would at least have to be off the motorcycle. It's also above the bumper in an inset place, and there's no damage to the tail light or the surrounding bumper. So it would be a very difficult angle of attack to be able to get into
Well,
that
let me ask you
area.
this question, sir. Why would you think that Ms. Sullivan would go and file a supplementary report the next day
I think to defend herself, because it was so clear that she had assaulted me, and it was so clear that she had caused damage to my motorcycle that I thought she...
That's a reasonable explanation. Eventually, these charges were dismissed. Is that right?
Correct.
Good. Were you notified of the dismissal of these battery charges, sir?
I had a discussion with the second DA who took over the case about 2 weeks prior to the trial, and he said that he would like to discuss the evidence with me. He felt that it should be best handled in small claims court.
Okay.
And at that time, I had explained to him that I would rather be done with the issue than take it to court again. But I was disappointed in their decision.
What happened that day was Mr. Von Prague was in a hurry, and he wanted to get around you, which he did. And that irritated you because he probably went around to your senses too fast. Instead of letting it rest, which would have avoided any and all confrontation, you decided to, at night, blind him with your lights by flashing your high beams. Unnecessary. Then Mr. Von Prague did something that was more stupid than your flashing your lights at him. He thought that you were trying to hurt him, and he didn't know what kind of a nut you were. So instead of just letting it rest and proceeding on his way, where were you going, Mr. Von Prague?
Home.
Home.
From work.
He decided to kick your car. Very stupid. Now, the next stupid thing that happened was you, not knowing what kind of a nut Mr. Von Prague is, decide to get out of your car and confront him by saying, "What the blank did you do to my car?" So you knew what happened because you got out and said to him, "What the blank are you doing?" And that car's all around you. He responded, "And what the blank are you doing trying to kill me?" And as my father's joke would go, the fight was on. But then, Miss Sullivan, you did something that you're not permitted to do. You put your hands on him. And I find that you were not defending yourself. I find that you were furious. And in a fit of anger, you pushed him off his motorcycle and caused about $660 worth of damage to his motorcycle. That's what you did.
Not in anger.
Yes, it was. It was in anger because you got out of the car angry. You were angry enough at him to put your brights on when he passed you instead of letting it rest. You were that angry. Instead of just letting it rest, you flashed your brights on him. I mean, I've been driving a car for more years than you're old, and I'm telling you, the only time you do that is when you are really PO'd. And if that's not the only time you do it, then you're a very bad driver. In any event, you're not getting a nickel to fix the ding in your car. All I'm doing, sir, is taking out what I consider the $60 that it probably will take to fix the ding in our car from the $660 that you want to fix your motorcycle. And since you behaved equally as badly that day, would you say that that's true, sir? Because you put your foot on her car in anger, giving you a judgment on your counterclaim for $600. That's all. Step back.
Parties are excused.
It's sad to think that a woman can't protect herself.
Well, I think we both acted badly.
A man admittedly aggressively hitting my car.
I was really upset about being run off the road.
I felt threatened. His bike came towards me.
And it was the wrong thing to do, but I was trying to get an explanation as to why she threatened my life.
Just pay attention to my own self and ignore anybody else's responses or reactions.
I would look the other way and have been since.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Kurlanchik versus McEnany-Burt. Step forward.
24-year-old teacher Jennifer Kurlanchik is suing her friends, 23-year-old student Paul McEnany and 24-year-old inventory controller Mike Burt for damages to a Hummer limo she rented on her birthday. Jennifer claims they broke the sunroof.
Ms. Kurlanchik, you rented a limousine to celebrate, I assume, your 24th birthday, and you invited a whole group of people to go with you. Two of the people you invited were these two gentlemen here, who, according to you, got a little out of hand and caused damage to the limousine. You were charged for the damage, and you want them to contribute to the cost of the damage that they did themselves. They say everybody was sort of involved in the nonsense, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
How old are you?
23.
What's your first name?
Paul.
24. Mike.
First name.
Jennifer.
What do you do for a living, Jennifer?
I'm a special ed teacher.
Paul?
I'm a student and I bartend.
Student of what?
Student in advertising.
Logistics management and work as inventory control clerk and as well as go to school.
Look what responsible people we have here. When was your birthday?
February 29th.
How big was the limousine?
Could fit 15 people. It was a H2 Hummer limousine, so it's pretty large.
I've seen those things driving in the street. I can see them coming about a block away. And how do you know these? And how do you know these two guys?
We're friends. We're in the same fraternity, sorority. We're all friends. We're friends.
We're friends.
What kind of damage was done to the limousine?
The emergency exit window flew off on a major highway, shattered pieces, and I was charged with damages.
You mean the roof, like a sunroof?
Yes, it's actually a moonroof, and it flew off. There's 3 ledges to unlatch, and the boys unlatched it, and around 2:30 in the morning, it flew off. I didn't see it fly off. That's my witness saw.
How do you know it was these 2 boys that unlatched the moonroof?
Well, when the incident happened, Mike looked at me and said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." And I didn't know what actually had happened. I was like, "Okay, fine, you can take care of it." After the incident happened, Paul comes up to me and he says, "Well, I was touching a button that made the sunroof go up and down." And that's where I was like, oh, so Paul and Mike were doing it. They were also at the back of the vehicle where the sunroof was located, along with Tracy and one of her friends.
So that's all that you know about how this happened?
Mm-hmm.
Step up. Tell me your name.
My name's Tracy.
Tracy what?
Thompson.
Were you sitting at a location where you could observe these 2 young men?
The way the limo was set up is there's 2 doors in the back. There was a bench seat that went across there, and I was sitting right there. At the top where the moonroof was, there was a stereo, buttons to turn on the lights in the bar. At that point in time, I had seen people playing with all the lights because lights were changing, everything was moving around. Then all of a sudden, moonroof flew off the top of the car. It was gone. Both of these 2 looked at each other like, what do we do now? So,
how many people were sitting in their general vicinity?
There was one other person sitting next to me, and it was me. It was these 2 in front of us. And then the rest of the limo went down with people sitting all the way down in the front.
Now, you say other people were touching the buttons, other than Mike and Paul?
Not that I know of.
So it was just Mike and Paul touching the buttons?
There were the only 2 that could touch the buttons. There was nobody else around.
Okay. Did you say to Jennifer when the moonroof flew off, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it"?
That's correct. I did say that, but that was at the end of the night.
Okay. Now, when you said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it," were you referring to the moonroof?
No, I was referring to the driver because he was getting a little irate and telling us, who's paying for it, who's paying for it. And as we stopped the car, exited, I told her, you know, we're going to take care of it. We're going to help you out as far as talking to the limo driver, saying who was at fault and this, that, and the other.
Not this, that, and the other thing. So you said to her, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it," because you were going to explain to the limo driver whose fault it was.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do that?
Well, no, at the point in time she asked me to leave, so I left.
So you didn't?
No.
Well, let's say that you did go to the limo driver to explain whose fault it was. What would you have told the limo driver?
I told him what...
Look at me. No, right here.
All right. Basically, I told him...
Not
well,
basically.
I would have told him that it wasn't explained to us that this is an emergency escape hatch, because they said later on that it's an emergency escape hatch and it was labeled. No, it wasn't labeled, and the driver never explained to us.
Then you were going to be arguing with him. Let me explain this to you, Mike. Basically, you would have said to the driver, "I was touching the buttons with my friend Paul, and the moonroof fell off, but nobody explained to us that it was an emergency door, and it wasn't marked, so how are we supposed to know that it was an emergency door?" Is that what you would have said to him?
In so many words, yes.
In less words than you just told me.
Yeah, hopefully.
So you would have said, "Yeah, we did it. But we didn't know if we touched these buttons and that sort of stuff that this moonroof was going to fall off. It was not properly marked.
Right.
But we did it."
Well, the only thing I had to do with it was I closed it when we got to Dallas. We were leaving from Denton to Dallas. Somebody opened it other than me and Paul. When we got to Dallas, I closed it. That's the last thing I had to do with it. And everybody's pointing fingers at me for some reason. And I'm trying to tell her, no, it's not me. And she doesn't want to buy that. She wants to say, you know, yeah, you did
Somebody
it.
else
She just
has
basically
to be
wants to get her
responsible.
money back.
From what Jennifer told me is there are 3 different latches too, and the only thing I ever touched is the one front latch that I thought would push it up, and it went flying off. So those 2 latches had to be undone, and I know other people around that area. I wouldn't, yeah.
Okay. Now, why did you push that one latch up?
Just to open. I thought it was a sunroof. It looked like a sunroof. Nobody told us it was an emergency exit.
You just wanted to get some air.
Yeah.
There's 15 bodies, body heat, and everything else. So we opened up.
So, Jennifer, what?
I have warning signs on the sunroof as well as the latches. There had to be some work done to get these latches to come off. It's not a simple button. It's not
Well, maybe it wasn't their fault, my dear. Maybe it was the fault of the limousine.
Can I
Maybe.
say that?
Shh.
Sorry.
Why, you want to fight with me about that?
No.
Maybe it was the fault of the limousine.
Well, I told everybody in this limousine, you do anything, you cause any damages, you break any glass, you're going to be responsible for it, because I had to sign basically.
Shh. Where are you now?
Here.
What is here?
Says Judy.
My space. Go ahead.
I had to sign a blank credit card slip that says we're going to charge you $600 for the flat rate.
Jennifer, my dear, you take 15 people out for an evening of partying. You sign on for a 15-passenger Hummer limousine, and you are going to expect that some damage might be done, for which you are going to be responsible. There isn't a shred of credible evidence that these two young men are responsible for that emergency exit. Not at all. The fact that they were sitting around there, the fact that they may have been touching it, the fact that he went to open up one of the latches to let some air in, that doesn't make him responsible. I don't even know if you're responsible. It's quite possible that there was a malfunction by the car. And the fact that the limousine company is charged a credit card, perhaps you should sue them.
The fact that they touched the roof and then
So
it
what?
flew off.
So what? So what? That doesn't make it their fault. I am not satisfied that you have sustained your burden to demonstrate that these two young men are responsible, that they either negligently, recklessly caused the damage to the limousine. It is just as plausible that someone else had touched one or more of those things at some point during the evening, and when he opened up one latch to let in some air, the thing fell off. That's also plausible. That doesn't make him responsible. And if the limousine company refuses to give you back your money, sue them, because I don't think you have a case against these two young men. That's all. Case is dismissed.
Why is that excuse you to step out?
I think justice was served.
Now I'm out $700 for an action that I had no part of, that they clearly did.
I think she lost her money, and she's just trying to get her money back, and it's, easy target.
We were celebrating my birthday. Of course we were, partying.
Well, we were having a good time. Next thing you know, the sunroof, moonroof, whatever you want to call it, it flew off.
One thing led to another. Sunroof flies off. Both boys say, shh, look at each other. They're guilty. I mean, they caused it to fly off.
She blames us, and she'd rather choose money over friendship, and I think that's really wrong.
We're friends, Stuff happens.
Well, hopefully we can have a beer and get over it. We'll see what happens.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Landers versus Lowry. Step forward.
Forklift operator Daryl Landers is suing his ex-neighbor, Rochelle Lowry, for an unpaid loan for tires and lost wages. Rochelle is countersuing for assault and harassment.
Mr. Landers, it is your claim that you made a loan to the defendant during the time when she was separated from her husband. I assume this is your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
The loan was for tires for her car. You want that money back.
Yes.
You say that you gave her other monies, you paid for other things during the course of your brief relationship. You don't want that money back because that was a gift, but the tires clearly a loan.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Lowry says that the tires as well were a gift from you. There was never any discussion of repayment for the tires. And she has a counterclaim because she says that you became both abusive and assaultive when she reconciled with her husband, and she has a whole litany of things that you allegedly did to her. How did you meet her?
Met her, she moved into an apartment, it was a fourplex. She moved into an apartment right below me, not right below me, but kitty corner below me.
Okay.
So they lived
and
there
when she moved into the apartment complex, was she with her husband or not with her husband?
Yes, for a few months, I guess, before he went to prison.
And when did he go to prison?
Imagine a year ago, not sure the
Give me
exact
the
date.
month. When did he go to prison?
April?
April of 2003?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long was he incarcerated?
He got out of prison, was it April of this year?
January 8th.
And when did you begin a relationship with Miss Lowry?
Sometime around June of
A couple of months later.
2003, I guess, yes. Yeah.
Tell me how that started.
We just wound up, working in the yard together and all that, gardening and all that. I helped her out with some, stuff she needed done, and just wound up. She was going to get divorced because he was gone for 5 years, and lo and behold, it just happened,
When was the loan for tires?
Her mother-in-law's car broke down about 30 miles from the residence.
Mother-in-law's, did you
Yes.
say?
The tires were so bad, one was blown completely and the other one had treads sticking out of it.
Okay. When was that, sir?
February of 2004.
Well, you got out of jail in January, you said. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you go home?
I was back in jail. I think it was January
Okay, so you were back in jail.
17th, yes.
What did they do, let you out by mistake?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor, they did.
It's not a mistake now, is it?
No.
Okay, so she's on her way back from someplace. So what happened?
The next day, me and her stepfather went to go retrieve the car, so I put a spare on it, drove it with the one, real bald tire, about 5 miles to a tires place, put tires on it, drove it back home.
What did she say to you, and what did you say to her that caused you to go back with her relative to get the car?
That she would pay me, if I bought the tire, she would pay me as soon as she got her check, which is on the 3rd, and this was like February 29th, so I said, okay. So I charged it on my charge card. And then when it came time to pay me, she skipped town.
How much were the tires?
$107, I believe. I have the receipt right here in my credit card statement.
Can I see them, please?
Yes. I have pictures of the car also if you want to see it with the tires.
No.
Okay.
Well, but you're suing her for much more than that, sir.
It was for, I was told I could do it for wages for the days I missed for going to court. My day's wages.
No, you can't.
Okay, so then I guess you have to drop the day's wages.
$107.08. Okay, so I'll hear you.
Your Honor, Daryl did buy the tires for my mother-in-law's car. There was never no agreement on paying him back.
How did he get to the car in the first place?
With my stepfather.
And that was in February?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember it was the beginning of February or the end of February?
It was towards the end of February.
And when did your husband get out of prison after they put him back and then
He
fixed
got
it up?
out at the end of March, beginning of April.
And where's the car now?
It's my mother-in-law's car. It's in the home with her in Wisconsin.
You don't drive it?
No, ma'am.
Were you driving it then in February?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were driving it in March?
The first part of March, yes.
Now tell me about your counterclaim.
I'm countersuing him for the damage he did to my house, to the apartment that I rented. I did not get my deposit back. Part of my deposit, I moved simply because of the fact that he was harassing me, stalking my daughter. I have a 22-month-old baby. Your Honor, I have pictures. I had a garden in the backyard. He dug up all my flowers. He dug up my rose bushes.
Did you see him do that?
Yes. He also kicked in my front door.
Just a second. Let's start. Did you dig up her garden?
No, ma'am.
Did you have to pay for that?
I paid for the flowers, not the part that he dug it up. No.
Okay. What else?
I don't know if he punched or kicked. I was inside of my living room, my front door. It was a big hole this size. I didn't get half my deposit back because of that.
When?
Also. That's right before I moved, the end of February.
Tell me about it.
I was inside of my house. This happened every day, Your Honor. He would call me.
Just tell me what happened at the end of February.
I was inside of my house with my daughter, and he was banging on the door and banging on the door. Let me in, you owe me money.
Oh, just let me in, you owe me money.
Can I say it on TV?
Shh, just a second. Let me in, you owe me money.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you say to him?
I said, Daryl, you're drinking. You're not coming in my house. No. Quit calling me. Quit coming over here.
Okay. So he wanted his money.
Mm-hmm.
And you already told him that you weren't going to see him anymore.
I told him to stay away from the house, yes.
Okay.
I was very scared of him.
Okay. When did you start to get scared of him?
After I seen through him, my husband kept warning me.
Just a second. When did you start to get scared of him?
Very scared of him?
No, let's say a little bit scared of him.
Beginning of the year.
Beginning of January?
Before he even bought the tires.
So why did you let him buy the tires?
I didn't have any other choice. I was a single mom. I was sick. I had no money.
Why'd you get a job?
I'm disabled, Your Honor.
What's the matter with you?
I have Wegener's vasculitis.
What does that mean?
It's like a form of cancer. It attacks my heart, my lungs, and my kidneys.
And when were you diagnosed with that illness?
1994.
It seems to me you can do everything else except work. You can have a husband, you can have a house, you can take care of your house, you can take care of a garden, you can drive all over Wisconsin. What you can't do is work. That's peculiar. He wants $107 for the tires. You went back to your husband. Give him the $107. Okay? You got it? Good. Counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You step out.
The whole time I kind of knew she was using me somewhat, but towards the end, I thought it was just, that's all it was for.
It was an everyday thing. He gave me money, gifts, helped me pay my bills. The tires were no exception.
She's way out there. I don't know what she's talking about.
I'm not real pleased with all of it, so... And I just think that he got lucky that the only thing that happened here was a court proceeding.
She had different guys over there all the time, 3, 4 in the morning. I had no idea what was going on, and, as far as I know, she was still getting divorced, but, ours just got too volatile, it fell apart,
I think that my wife wears her heart on her sleeve, and she thinks everybody's good, but sooner or later, somebody wants something for whatever they give them.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of DeLong versus Bryant. Step forward, please.
Retail auditor Darlene Dottie DeLong is suing her ex-boyfriend, painting contractor John Bryant, for his share of the trip to North Carolina. John says he was out of work, so Dottie picked up the tab.
Mr. Long, Mr. Bryant and you were involved in a relationship, and according to your complaint, he wanted to travel from where the two of you were living to his hometown. There was some problem with his daughter and other things, but the problem was he didn't have any money. So you made an arrangement with him whereby you would put everything on your credit card and he would pay you back that money within a certain period of time. And he hasn't paid you back, and you're no longer involved in a relationship. Mr. Bryant said there was never a loan. He just wanted to go back to his hometown, meet his friends and family. There was never any agreement to reimburse you for any of the expenses. Is that right, sir?
That's true.
Okay. How long were you involved with Mr. Bryant before you decided to accompany him to his hometown?
Approximately a couple months.
Couple of months?
Couple of months.
You were not living together, you were just seeing him?
He stayed at the house and I stayed at his house.
And where were you living at the time?
In Indian River.
Indian River is where?
Michigan.
And where is your hometown, sir?
Afton, Michigan, just the next town over from Indian River.
So this is the trip that you made?
No, we went to North Carolina.
Oh, well, that's what I want to know. You went to North Carolina?
Yes.
From Michigan. And
yes,
how long did that take you?
We were gone for 4 days. The ride down's about a 13 to 14-hour ride.
When did you travel there?
A couple days before the Super Bowl.
What prompted you to go?
Her wanting to go down, meet my children, my friends. We were sitting in the bar one night. It was during the playoffs, and I would call my friends in North Carolina, and we'd root back and forth about how the Panthers were going to the Super Bowl, and she said, wouldn't it be nice if we went down and watched the game with your friends? And, yeah, sure, it would be great, but I told her that I wasn't working, I didn't have the money, and I thought it would be ridiculous for us to do that because I couldn't afford it.
Why weren't you working?
It was wintertime in northern Michigan, and I'm a paint contractor, and things are real slow in the wintertime up there.
Okay. And she said what to you?
She said that she would love to pay for us to go down, do that for me, so we could see my kids, she could meet my kids and my family, my friends.
And that's what you did?
Yes, she was very persistent. Yeah.
Good. Now I'll hear your version of the events, Mr. Long.
We went to North Carolina.
No, before you went to North Carolina.
I don't know what you want to know. We were dating, and his daughter was in trouble.
Well, tell me about that.
Okay, his daughter was in trouble. He wanted to go see his daughter. She was going into a girl's home, running out in the middle of the night, sneaking in and out of her house.
Is that what he told you?
Yes, I have phone bills to prove he was calling there.
All right. So, tell me about the trip to North Carolina.
We went to North Carolina. He left me at his friend's house, went over and visited his daughter a couple times. We went to the school to visit his daughter. And the other time, we were at the Super Bowl party at his friend's house.
I didn't hear about any loan, madam.
I paid for all the gas on the way down on my credit cards, which I have the receipts of his signature.
Yes.
And he told me that if I paid for it, when he got back to work, he'd reimburse me.
When did you expect him to get back to work?
When the weather broke up there. March, April.
And when is the Super Bowl?
January.
End of January.
End of January.
Sorry.
Just tell you.
I loaned him money, a $50 loan at one point. Not sure if you want me to tell you about that loan.
No, don't ask him.
It was drugs, so he could buy a bag of pot.
Yes.
He did reimburse me for that.
When did he reimburse?
He did reimburse me for that. When? Are you saying I'm lying? Are you saying I'm lying?
Ma'am, yes. Talk to the judge.
Thank you. Okay, so what you're telling me, Mr. Long, is when he borrowed money from you for marijuana, he paid you back.
Yes, he did.
So when he considers it a loan, he pays you back. Is that what you're telling me?
He gave me that back because I pursued it. He went to work a couple times and got paid. And I said, can I get some money from you for what you owe me? Because I have none. And he says, this is what I got that I can afford. I know I owe you more, but I can't give it to you right now.
When
and I
is
have
that?
witnesses to that.
Oh, I'll hear you witness. Step up. Tell me your name.
Brenda Santor.
And how are you related to these people?
Darlene is my cousin.
Okay. Tell me about where you were when you overheard Mr. Bryant acknowledging a debt to plaintiff.
I was in her living room. He just gotten out of the shower. He was sitting in the chair, and he handed Darlene a $100 bill, said that this is part of the money that I owe you, that he was going to make good on the money for the trip.
I don't believe what you just said. Just a minute. I don't believe what you just said.
Well,
you're making that up as you're going.
No.
I believe that you may have seen him hand him 100. Listen to me, Brenda.
Ma'am?
I believe you when you said that you saw him hand her a $100 bill. That might make sense, that he got out of a shower and he handed her a $100 bill. I don't believe you when you said that you heard him say, I know that I owe you money for the trip and I'm going to give it back. Because somebody who just gets out of a shower and is sitting around in a towel doesn't talk about, here's $100 and I know I owe you more money for the trip and I'm going to pay you back. That's what you want me to believe you heard?
No, ma'am. When he was sitting in the chair in the living room, we were standing right there in the doorway. And when he handed Darlene the money, he said that he would make good on the money he owes her.
Oh, just a second. Just a second.
Well, the
just
money
a second.
that he owes her was for the trip. So.
Sit down. Anything else you want to tell me?
I have phone bills here that show that his daughter was in trouble, that he had made from my house.
So?
Why would I want to go to see his daughter in trouble?
No, I don't think you wanted to go and see his daughter who was in trouble. I think that you wanted to solidify your relationship and you wanted to go meet his friends. You knew he had no money, so you paid for the trip. Whatever the trip was. Gas money, motel money. It was a social endeavor. You paid for it. You anticipated a long-term relationship. You didn't have one. Stop complaining. Write it off. It was a bad debt.
Your Honor?
What?
I'm the one that asked Jack to leave.
That may be, and you may have had good reason for that, madam, because if a man doesn't have any money and he wants to spend whatever money he doesn't have in buying drugs, that should have been your first clue that this was not a good idea. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Very good. I wouldn't have traveled with him from here to over where that light switch is. But you chose to do that, pay for it. It was a foolish thing to do. Don't do it again. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out. I think Judge Judy's wonderful.
I'm not to say he lies.
She sees right through Darlene's bull.
Being used. Felt used.
This woman has been married 5 times.
He's lying. He borrowed the money from her, and he should have been, told to pay it back.
Absolutely ridiculous, and I thank goodness that Judge Judy's seen through it.
I'm more fortunate than that. I don't have misfit children.
I am not a misfit child.
I chose to help him because I thought maybe it could make a difference.
Any dime that I borrowed from this woman was paid to her. Anything that she spent money on is because she wanted to. When I borrowed money, I paid the money.
Lies.
It's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous.
What goes around comes around.
She's a liar.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Stamos versus Mathers, step forward, please.
20-year-old student David Stamos is suing his college schoolmate, 20-year-old Caitlin Mathers, for spilling beer on his laptop computer when she was drunk.
Miss Mathers, did you ever date the plaintiff, Mr. Stanis?
No.
So he was just a friend of yours?
Yep.
According to Mr. Stanis' complaint, you and some friends came into his dorm room and you were having some fun, drinking beer, playing around, and you accidentally poured beer on his computer.
That's correct.
And he says his computer's broken. He wants you to pay for it.
Well, so? At that point, let's see, after I had done what I had done, I had sat there for about 30 seconds wondering, should I tell him, shouldn't I? Should I, shouldn't I?
Well, tell me how it happened that you poured the beer on his computer.
Okay, we were sitting on a futon. There was a lawn chair no more than a foot in front of me with a laptop open, crooked. So my knees were very close to the laptop. I was holding a beer. I stood up to go to the bathroom. Less than a teaspoon spilled on the laptop. I proceeded to tell Dave.
No, now we're getting to the point where you said you sat and debated for a while.
I did.
Should I tell him? Should I not tell him?
That's correct. I did debate for a while, not very long. I mean, I was in shock because I knew, okay, I'm probably in trouble here. So I did the right thing, which my mom has always raised me to do, is be honest. And I told him that I had spilled the beer on his computer. He did not act concerned whatsoever. He said that we would talk about it either tomorrow or at a later date. A couple days later, he came to my dorm room, which is 2 floors below, and he had the computer in his hand. He said...
What college did you go to?
UMass Amherst. He said, Caitlin, this is no use to me. Please fix it. I was like, okay. So I took the computer. I brought it to my house because I wanted my mother's input, because at this point it was getting serious. So I brought the computer to my mother. She took the battery pack off, replaced it, cleaned it up because there was food all over it. It had obviously not been taken care of well before this incident. And when I got home from work, the computer was in complete working condition. We tried Word. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, Microsoft Word.
I'm not familiar with Edison.
Okay.
So certainly I'm not familiar with
it's just a program where you would type papers, and we tried typing a couple sentences that worked fine. We tried Solitaire. I'm sure you're familiar with that.
I'm familiar with the game of Solitaire.
So the computer was working. I brought it back to him that same night, and I said, Dave, your computer's working perfect. He was very excited. He even hugged me and said, thank you so much. And we thought it was awesome. We were going to be friends again. It was going to be good. A couple days later, he writes to me, and he said, my keys aren't working. Meanwhile, he's typing to me saying, my keys aren't working on my laptop. So I asked him, how are you typing without your keys working? He claimed he was on his friend's computer.
Okay, got it. So the computer's not working?
Yeah, on the...
Just a second, listen to me. Do you go to college?
Yes, I do.
Are you an in-state student?
Yeah.
Which means that the citizens of the good state of Massachusetts help pay your tuition? Yeah, they do, because you get a reduced tuition.
Yeah, definitely.
So I would like you, in order to give the citizens of the state of Massachusetts the best bang for their buck, I'd like you to say yes.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'd like you to stop swaying because it's making me motion sick. And where are your hands?
In my pockets.
Now, what's wrong with your computer?
On Saturday, April 24th, Caitlin spilled some beer on my computer.
Just a second. Listen to me. Maybe you weren't paying attention with all that sway, Mr. Stamets. We're past that.
All right.
She poured beer on your
Yes.
computer.
She brought it back to me.
She brought it back and said it's fixed.
Right. And immediately after she left, I plugged it in, and the keyboard wasn't working. I went right to my roommate's computer that moment, not a couple days later. I typed to her and I said, Caitlin, can you please come back upstairs? Like, the keyboard's not working. And she said, I'm busy. I don't have time, but I'll talk to you about it in a couple days.
Was that during finals? Shh.
No, this wasn't even near finals. This was the 28th of April, a Wednesday. So she said we talked about it at a later date, and I bumped into her in the lobby of our dorm by the elevators, and I told her, we need to figure something out. It's been a few days now. Then at that time, she said she paid someone $100 to clean it.
Did you say that to him?
Yes, I did.
Why did you tell him that?
Because my mother had her coworker who is experienced in computers look at it. And she told me that she had paid him $50 to $100. I rounded up.
Now, you left that out of your story. What you said was that you took the computer home and your mom fixed it. That's what you swore to in your answer. That's what you just told me today. So you didn't tell me the truth. Either you didn't tell me the truth when you were talking to me a moment ago, or you didn't tell Mr. Stamets the truth when you spoke to him outside of the elevator. Who was it that you lied to, Mr. Stamets or me?
Mr. Stamets.
Okay. She lied.
Yeah.
You were wondering how I phrased that question.
Oh, no.
You got it.
I got the game.
Got the game. Good.
She told me she
Game
didn't
doesn't
know
change. Faces change.
That's all.
That's it. Right?
That's it.
She told me she didn't know at the time that her mother had paid someone. I said, can you please get the guy's name, because I want to talk to him about what he had done to see if it can be
And Miss
replaced.
Mathers said,
She said she would get the name of
get
the business,
the name of the
guy.
person who she paid
Yeah.
$100 to
Yeah.
fix it.
Yeah, she said she would get that to me. So I said, all right. And this is my witness, Kate. She saw the whole thing happen. I was in Kate's room. I went down there, and Caitlin was in the room too. And I said, Caitlin, you never got me that information from the guy. We kind of got into a little argument about what was going to be paid for. She was like, I'm done dealing with it. I've done enough. My parents told me to stop dealing with you.
Good. Let me see the bills to fix the computer.
Sure.
What do you want, Miss Mathers?
I had sent him a request asking for a written statement of the assessment of the damage of his computer, which I never received to this date.
Well, now you're going to get him, my dear.
I didn't get that
Also,
letter.
he proceeded to tell me that I was a bad person.
You are a bad person.
That I'm not worth anything. But I fessed up to
You
what
are
I
a bad
did,
person.
Your
You
Honor.
lied to him. You lied to him, and then you lied to me a moment ago until you turn back the page. If you do something wrong, And if you play, should I tell him, should I not tell him, should I tell him, should I not tell him, and then you decide to do the right thing, and you tell him, then you say, I damaged your computer, I'm going to be responsible, I'll take care of whatever it is that it takes to fix it. And you follow through. You didn't. So he got annoyed. You kept blowing him off, is what you did. You know it, and I know it. That's what you did. You blew him off.
So how am I supposed to pay for something that I have no idea what the cost is? Where did he come up with $1,500 for a 2-year-old computer? I'd like to know
Let me
that.
ask you this question. It was a 2-year-old computer that worked. Now he's got a 2-year-old computer that because of something that you did that doesn't work. What's he supposed to do? I mean, I read your answer, Caitlin, and your answer is so dumb that it's sort of embarrassing to me that the citizens of the state of Massachusetts, since you're an in-state resident too, subsidize your education as well. Because you say, he should have had his computer in a safer place. It's the computer's fault that it got doused with beer. He paid over $2,000 for his computer. He's seeking $1,500. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,500. That's all.
All you guys do, you may step out.
I don't know how Dave came up with the $1,500 claim.
I just think that she was blowing me off the whole time.
The damage has been done. There's nothing much I can do anymore.
It's too bad, because I know it was an accident, and it's too bad that it had to come to this.
There was a party, and the computer was less than a foot away from me. Anybody could have done it.
Actually, it wasn't a party. Caitlin came in with her own beer, drunk, spilt it on my computer.
It didn't have to go to court, first of all. I mean, it was a clear
Any
case.
responsible person would offer to pay half.
We don't have a friendship anymore.
I wasn't really friends with her to begin with, really. I mean, it was more Kate and her friendship, I guess, is done.
Because of a computer.
I wish it hadn't happened.
I'm just glad that I can buy a new computer for school.
Beverly Grogan is suing her son, 28-year-old DJ Patrick Patterson, and his wife, 24-year-old market manager Selena Patterson, for unpaid rent and for extensive damage to her home.
Yes, case number 207 on the calendar in the matter of Grogan versus Patterson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Mrs. Grogan, this is your son, and this is his wife.
Yes, ma'am.
Who is this gentleman?
This is my husband.
Are you afraid to stand up?
No, ma'am.
Good. Stand up next to your wife. Are you his father?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so this is your second stepfather. How long have the two of you been married?
2 years.
2 years?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
It's good that you remember.
Yes, ma'am. It's usually out of the way. Yes.
Okay. And there was some sort of a problem that occurred between you and your son.
Yes, ma'am.
And you evicted them.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you went back into the house, you saw some extensive damage. So
Yes,
you
ma'am.
want him to be responsible for the rent that he owes you, as well as for the damage that he did to the house.
Yes, ma'am.
And your son says that there was never an agreement to pay rent, that there was an agreement that he pay your insurance, some sort of insurance, that he paid that faithfully, and he's going to prove to me that he paid that faithfully, and that was the only agreement that you had with regard to finances, and that you are, according to him, a meddling lady who wants to control his life, and when you had a fight with him, you hit him over the head with a soda bottle, and he and his wife and children moved out of the house, and he caused absolutely no damage.
Correct.
Do you work, Mr. Patterson?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a DJ.
Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
Who do you work for?
I'm an assistant market manager.
Okay. So you have two incomes. What are you doing living in your mother's house?
She told me that it was my house for years. Her and my father bought the house when I was younger, and I've always lived there. So she bought her another home and moved it in behind us, and she told us that we could live there. She said, as long as you help me out with my insurance, there's no rent or anything.
Okay. Tell me what the insurance was every month.
$278.
$278.
That's what we pay a month.
What other expenses did you pay on the house, Mr. Patterson?
I replaced some doors.
No, expenses, regular expenses.
As in...
Heating, utilities.
Yeah,
we paid the utility bill and the phone bill, but they were also in her name.
I don't care whose name they were in. You were living there.
Yes, ma'am. I paid them.
Okay.
Until she'd come down and cut them off in 100-degree heat with my kids in the house.
Okay, well, you had a fight with them. You had a fight with your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you have a fight with your mother?
I don't recall the exact date.
Give me the month.
May.
May.
And how long had you been living in the house up until that point?
I've been there 7 years.
But she left for a period
of 2 years.
2 years and come
and
back.
I come back September 2001.
When she was pregnant again.
Ah, so you've been living there on and off for the last 5 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're telling me, Miss Grogan, that your son and his wife never paid rent?
They paid rent one time.
One time?
One time.
When?
I don't even remember it.
It was so long ago.
It was so long ago, I don't remember.
Oh, and you filed eviction proceedings against them after this May argument?
Yes, ma'am.
So why don't you tell me, Mr. Patterson, about the argument?
She asked me for part of the cool ceiling, the trailer.
Part of the what?
Cool ceiling of the mobile home.
I don't understand what that...
It's a seal that goes on top. It's supposed to make the house cooler, and it seals it up from any leaks or anything occurring.
Okay, so she asked you for that?
She asked me for half, yes, ma'am. And I told her that I'm hard-headed, so she told me that I was going to pay it.
Just a second. So she said, she asked if you would pay it, and then you probably said no.
I said, if I have it, I will. And she said, well, you're going to pay it.
Okay, so you said, if I had it, I would pay it.
If I have it at the time. She wanted it later on in the week, and I said, if I have it at that time, I will give it to you. But she said, well, you're going to pay it. And I come by honest from her, if you're going to pay it. And at that point, when she told me I was going to pay it, I would have died before I would have paid it then. To be honest with you.
So what did you say to your mother, who's allowed you to live rent-free in the house with your wife and 2 children for 7 years?
After she got on the porch, she made some more threats.
What did you say to her? I don't care what she said to you. She can wipe. She brought you into this world. She can take you out. What did you say to her?
You can't say it in a courtroom, really.
Oh, you can say anything here, sir. We have the ability to go, bleep, bleep.
I told her, you.
Nice.
So
let me see what I got here. I got a mother. How many children do you have, Miss Grogan?
We have none.
One.
You have one?
Just one.
Him. See what happens when you put all your eggs in one basket?
But I can
Just a second. Let's see what we got here, Mr. Patterson. We have a mother who allows you and your wife to live rent-free in her home. And she comes down and she says to you, listen, you don't pay any rent in the house. The house needs some repairs on the outside. I want you to pay, not the whole thing. I want you to pay half. And you say to her, if I had it. And she says to you, oh, you're going to have it. And then you curse at her.
That was only after a few more arguments. I mean, we went on arguing. This happened when we got outside, and then she turned and threw a bottle at me and hit me in the head with a bottle.
Sure did.
And she denies that. My little girl.
You are lying. You were in the house.
My
No, it
little girl
wasn't.
asked me
Miss
every
Grogan,
day
Miss
of
Grogan.
my life why her Grammy hit her daddy in the head, and why every time they go over
Because
there,
he had a big fresh mouth.
she has no reason.
Listen to me. Because he had a big fresh mouth.
Well, and so does she.
I want you to face left.
I'm sorry.
Your other left.
Okay.
You see this woman?
Yes, ma'am.
20 years from now, you won't remember what she looks like. Now I want you to turn around and face right.
What do you think?
That's your mother. 20 years from now, she's still going to be your mother. Look at me. You know how I know that? Because I'm smart. And because statistically, there is more than a 50% probability in this country that you won't remember what she looks like unless you see her occasionally at your children's weddings. So that this lady is somebody that you don't tell to go bleep yourself. And I don't care what kind of trouble Missy Moo Moo over here tries to make. Your mother helped you for 7 years. Now, I'm going to tell you, sir, that I believe you only about one thing. I believe you that there was never an agreement with your mother to pay rent. See that? I'm a reasonable gal. I know what's right and I know what's true. She's angry and she's hurt because probably at this point she has you. You're her only son. You have 2 children. She hasn't seen her grandchildren. That's a very painful thing for her. So, listen, Missy Mumu over here is shaking her head yes. I'm talking to you, not her. The one that you're not going to remember 20 years from now? I don't remember. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about your mother who's taken care of you, changed your pants, took care of you when you were sick, took care of you when you had a fever, brought you up, fed you, clothed you, educated you, took care of you for a very long time. This isn't somebody you cut off from her grandchildren. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Just remember what I said when I told you to look left. Now, did you or your wife cause any damage to this house when you left?
One time.
What?
I was gone to move a bed, and when I come back, we seen smoke coming out of the bathroom window, so I went down there. Maybe she left a... They never determined what it was. I think maybe a candle, maybe it's...
You mean your wife?
Yes, ma'am. And the wind blew the curtain, and the curtain caught on fire, and I put it out. I feel like it could have been fixed with some paint.
Okay. So you would agree, Mr. Patterson, would you not, that this accident that you say was caused by your wife negligently leaving a candle burning in the bathroom is your responsibility to fix?
Yes, ma'am. But I don't...
There you go.
I don't think it was as bad as it was said.
All I'm going to do is look at her bills to fix it. That's all.
The bills were fixed by an ex-husband.
I don't care who they were fixed by. I don't care if they were fixed by Howdy Doody. I want to see a paid bill to have it fixed because that is minimally your responsibility. You would agree with that?
Yeah, but not as bad as it says. They say it is.
Can I please see the bill to fix the bathroom that was damaged as a result of his wife leaving a candle burning and a wind blowing through the window and catching on fire the curtains, which caused damage that might have been fixed by just some paint?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Grogan says her son, Patrick Patterson, and his wife, Selena Patterson, owe for unpaid rent and for damage to her home. Beverly says Patrick and his wife burned down the bathroom.
Where are you living now?
In a mobile home.
Who rented it to you?
I bought it.
How much money did you put down on it?
$500.
How much do you make in mortgage payments?
$500 a month.
Let us assume that for the past 5 years, not 7, 5, because that's how many years you lived in your mother's house with Missy over here, that you paid your mother what you're paying on a mortgage. That's $500 a month. $500 a month times 12 times 5 years is $30,000. That's how much you saved by living in your mother's house. $30,000. Now, if you didn't put that away, that's your problem. But you don't move out of the house and leave it like a pigsty, which is what you did.
We couldn't clean it up. Every time we went over, we get cussed out.
It shouldn't have gotten to that point. These photographs that I'm seeing didn't happen in one day. They happened over a very long period of time.
She always told me that that was my place. I even told the preacher that that was my place. It belonged to me.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,580. Just remember what I said to you, sir. Look over there. You won't remember that face unless one of your kids looks like her in 20 years. Do you understand? This is always going to be your mother. You're making a big mistake and you're being very unfair to your children. You're being very unfair to your children if you don't allow your children to have a relationship with your mother when she's had a relationship with them over the last...
I have no problem with her having a relationship.
Great.
He has refused. I have called him and called him and called him and asked him to bring the children over.
So he says he has no problem. So you're going to bring your children over on Sunday morning?
Yes, ma'am.
What time do you want him to bring the children over?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock for a visit?
Yes, ma'am.
For an hour. Great.
Yes,
every Sunday?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that reasonable?
Yes, ma'am.
That's fine.
Done. Thank you. That's all.
Why is your excuse? You may step out.
When he put his hands on me and he threw me down to the ground, I knew then that, you know, we need at some point it had to stop.
What can you say? I mean, you have to go by what she says, but don't agree with everything.
I was hoping he would learn from it. I love him, and I love Selena.
Just, he's not there anymore. He's making a family with me and his 2 kids. That's the problem with her, which is fine. We'll see where he is in 20 years.
And the control problem is not with me. It's with his wife.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Baker versus Williams. Step forward, please.
23-year-old cocktail waitress April Baker is suing her ex-boyfriend's sister, 26-year-old medical secretary Angela Williams, for the return of her belongings. Angela says April stole her car.
Ms. Baker, you used to live in the apartment or the home of the defendant, who is the sister of your former boyfriend. Is that right?
Your Honor.
And this is the former boyfriend?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you claim that you were forced to move out because there was some sort of an altercation or an argument. And when you moved out, the defendant kept a lot of your property. You want to be compensated to the tune of $2,000 for that property. When did you move in with them?
It was May.
Why did you move in with them?
I was seeing her brother, so I decided that when I came back from vacation, I would move back in to the same area with them.
Where were you working?
I wasn't working at that very present time.
Immediately prior to that very present time, when was your last employment?
Before I moved to Worcester.
Give me a month and a year.
Okay, that would have been in February of 2004.
And what kind of work were you doing in February of 2000?
I was hostessing in a Greek restaurant in Tennessee.
When you moved from Tennessee to where?
To Worcester.
And how did you get there?
I took a bus.
How many suitcases did you have?
Your Honor, they weren't suitcases. They were very big Tupperware containers with lids.
And what was in the 2 Tupperware containers?
One of the containers contained all of my shoes and boots, and the other one contained all of my clothing belongings.
And when you left their house, what did you take with you?
Absolutely nothing, except for what I had on my person.
Do you have any of her property?
No, ma'am.
Where is it?
As far as I know, she took it with her when she stole my vehicle.
What month was that?
That was in July.
What do you mean she stole your vehicle?
She did take it, said that she'd be back, and never came back.
She didn't come back?
No, ma'am.
How long did she remain away?
She was gone that whole night, the whole next day. I finally got a phone call telling me that I could find my keys at her new boyfriend's house, and my car was at her job. So I had to find a ride to get my keys and my vehicle.
That sound familiar to you?
Vaguely, that is...
Not vaguely. Does that sound familiar to you?
That is pretty much the case, but not all the way, no. But yes.
So if you left, say, July 1st or 2nd, in her car, and you didn't come back, and you went to a new boyfriend's house, you're telling me that you just left with the clothes on your back and you didn't take anything with you?
Absolutely, Your Honor. I didn't leave to a new boyfriend's house. I left in the middle of the night. It was midnight Thursday, July the 2nd.
Where did you go?
I went to a friend's house to have a couple of drinks. I got intoxicated and did not drive back to her house because I'm not going to drive her car intoxicated. I did have her car dropped to my work so that she could pick it up, and the keys were where she said they were at that same person's house, but it was not. I did not take any of my belongings with me. I did not plan on being gone or not coming back. I did not steal her car.
Step up. What's your name?
Brian. Brian Williams.
Mr. Williams, do you have any of Miss Baker's property?
No, I do not.
Look at me. Did you throw it away?
No, I did not.
Do you know of anyone who threw it away?
No, I do not.
Well, I think you probably do. I think you probably either tossed her stuff or got rid of some of her stuff because you were annoyed with her. But you have to have some proof of that. She says she doesn't have your clothing. How do I know that she didn't take it with you?
She had her boyfriend come to my house and say, DYS appreciates your donation. That's the local juvenile facility.
Really? Did you say that to her?
No, ma'am.
Did you say
her
anything?
boyfriend said that to me.
Did you say it to anyone?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. Miss Williams, I have a feeling that you probably kept some of her stuff, and maybe you donated because you were really annoyed with her. That I can understand.
No, I did not, Your Honor.
Well, somebody did. Let me see what you have there. Okay. Okay. $361. The legitimate bills that I have that you can establish here. Now, I don't know whether and how much they didn't return, but I know that you didn't return some stuff because I know you were annoyed. That's just common sense. that if she left there, you found some of her stuff there, and I believe that you did return some of her stuff.
Everything was gone when she stole my car, Your Honor. I don't
What?
owe her anything.
No, you're full of baloney. Don't believe you. I also don't believe that she had $2,000 worth of clothes, because she didn't have a job.
Your Honor.
Maybe $360 worth of stuff. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $360. That's all.
What is that stick out?
She's wearing my clothes and my shoes right now. They're lies just like everything else. They stole my stuff. She took them when she stole my vehicle. I just didn't want to be around them anymore. Probably still has it. Or left it at a different boyfriend's house.
22-year-old landscaper Robert Tony Strong is suing his ex-fiancée, 18-year-old activities director Camille Ramos, for crashing his Buick Regal and for impound fees. Camille says she wrecked the car because she was fleeing from Robert after he threatened to kill her.
Yes, it's case number 293 on the calendar, the matter of Strong versus Ramos. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Mr. Strong, how long did you and Miss Ramos live together?
For approximately almost 2 months.
And how long did you date prior to living together?
I'd say about 9 months.
It is your claim that after an argument, that Miss Ramos got into your car, drove it erratically, drove into a fence, and wrecked your car.
Correct.
You want her to pay for the damage. Ms. Ramos says that she got into your car because she was escaping an assault by you. And yes, she did go into a fence, but it was because she was fleeing the apartment because you were assaulting her. When did this happen?
August 19th, 2004.
Tell me about it, Mr. Strong.
Your Honor, that day I came home from work. We had gotten to a verbal argument.
About what?
About money.
What about money?
Basically, we didn't have no money.
So what were you arguing with each other about? Why don't you go get a job?
I had a job, Your Honor.
And she?
She was not working at the time.
So were you arguing with her because she didn't have a job?
She was arguing with me because I was not making enough money, not supporting us enough. Then we kept arguing. I told her I was going to leave the apartment, went to go get my clothes from my bedroom.
You mean you were leaving her?
No, I was leaving the apartment for the night.
Oh, just for the evening?
Just for the evening.
Okay.
So everything calmed down. Went to go grab my clothes. As soon as I did that, she darted out the door, jumped in the car, and wrecked it, Your Honor.
Okay, can I see pictures of the car, please?
Yes, ma'am. Here's all the evidence right here. Just pictures. There's also pictures in there of her damage, Your Honor.
Now, after she darted out of the apartment into the car, what did you do?
I seen her getting into the car from our bedroom. I ran downstairs. By that time, she was already in the car, leaving the apartment recklessly, driving. I ran after her to tell her to stop. As soon as I started to run, she wrecked. I ran over there to see if she was all right. About that time, she ran out the passenger door, ran into the other side of the apartment complex. About that time, I got arrested.
You got arrested for what?
I got arrested, they said, for domestic violence.
All right, Ms. Ramos, let me hear your version of the events. August 19th, 2004, you were at the apartment at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes, ma'am. I actually arrived at 5 o'clock in the afternoon because the evening before I had to go to an appointment. Well, I spent the night at my mom's house, and that night...
What kind of an appointment?
I actually had to go... I had to go apply for general assistance because we weren't bringing in enough money, and he wasn't allowing me to work. I had to
What do you
sneak.
mean, just a second, what do you mean he wasn't allowing you to work?
He wasn't allowing me to work.
I don't understand. Put your hand down. I don't understand that.
He wouldn't allow me to go look for a job throughout the day. I would sneak to go look for a job. And
when was the last time you were employed?
Last time when I was employed, I was 16 years old. And that was at
How
Burger
old are you
King.
now?
I'm 18 now. And I am employed now.
Mr. Strong?
That is incorrect, Your Honor.
Okay.
I encouraged her numerous times to get a job.
Well, tell me about it. Tell me about it, Mr. Strong.
I even, to the point where I told her I would leave the, I would leave the car keys and everything, even to the point where I told her my mother would take her to go look for a job, Your Honor, while I'm at work.
What was the argument about on the 19th of August, Ms. Ramos?
By that point, I was just so fed up with barely making ends meet that we had to, penny pinch. We had hardly no food in the fridge. So I said, you know what, I'm going to apply for general assistance. Well, I didn't tell him that. I told my mom that. I went to spend the night at my mom's house that evening, and I didn't ask him or anything. I just packed my stuff up. By the time he got home from work, he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to my mom's house to spend the night. I have an appointment in the morning." Well, that evening when I was at my mom's house, he called me numerous times. His mom called me numerous times saying that Tony is here. I'm sorry, Robert. They call him Tony. Tony is here at the house. He, I don't know what's going on. He's pacing back and forth. I have no idea what's going on. I told her, well, I'm here at my mom's house. I had to leave for the evening because I have an appointment in the morning. Well, following evening, I went back home. The house was a mess. He wasn't home from work yet. The house was a mess. And finally, he walked in about 5:30, 5:15, and I was in the kitchen trying to clean stuff up. And he said, "Hi, babe." I didn't say anything to him. And he said, "Well, what's wrong? Why are you mad?" I said, "Look at the house. Ask me why I'm mad. Look at what you did to the house." He said, "Well, oh well." He said, "You left me like a dog the night before, so I messed up the house." I said, "That's no excuse to mess up the house." So he turned around and I said, "You know what? I don't need this. I do not need you or this in my life." I picked up my house keys off the counter, which the house keys did have the extra set of car keys, my cell phone, and I started to walk out of the kitchen. He picked up a knife off of the table, started to tell me that he was going to kill me. He said, "If you go and you leave me, I'll kill you." And he said, "No, as a matter of fact, I'll kill myself." Started to push the knife into his neck and onto his wrist. At that point, I started screaming, and I was trying to pull it up so it wouldn't puncture him. Finally, he dropped it, and he went and he grabbed me by my neck and started pushing me up against the kitchen sink, in the corner of the kitchen sink and the stove. Started choking me. I finally pushed him off. When I pushed him off, he reached in to get a kiss. And I went like that. I said, you passed up that opportunity. And I started walking out of the kitchen. When I started walking out of the kitchen, he ran up to the front door. I got the front door open about this much. The neighbors seen me. I opened up the front door, and he went and grabbed me by my throat and pushed me up against the wall. Slammed the front door. He said, "You F&B, you're not going nowhere." He grabbed the cell phone out of my hand and threw it up against the wall. That's in the police report, too. The neighbors were hearing everything that was going on downstairs.
What the neighbors were hearing. Who called the police?
The neighbors.
You didn't call the police?
I did not call the police until I finally ran out of the house, but that was minutes later.
Where did you call the police from?
At the neighbor's house, but that was after I wrecked the car.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Robert Tony Strong says ex-fiancée Camille Ramos wrecked his Buick Regal. Camille says she was fleeing from Robert after he threatened to kill her.
Can I see the police report, please?
Yes, ma'am. There are statements from witnesses that seen him hitting me. Sorry. It's a chunky one.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I never once hit her. Never.
He pleaded to domestic violence.
Not once did I hit her.
Speak.
The only reason I did plead to domestic violence, Your Honor, is because so I can get out of jail. I was facing 6 years in the penitentiary.
Listen to me, Mr. Strong. I didn't even ask you the question. You were arrested for domestic violence?
I was charged with domestic. I was charged with corporal injury to a spouse or companion, destruction of telephone or telegraphic, and terrorist threat.
How long had you been living in that apartment complex, sir?
For about, I'd say, a month and 3 weeks, so almost 2 months.
Do you know a woman by the name of Melinda?
I do not know, sir. Ma'am.
She's a neighbor of yours. Police interviewed her.
Okay.
This neighbor says she saw you push the defendant into a corner and you had your hands around her throat.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Okay.
I never once pushed her or grabbed her.
Your Honor, I have pictures of my injuries.
The police observed that the apartment was in a total state of disarray, sir. There was overturned furniture in the living room. There were broken parts of a cell phone in the closet in the bedroom. The bathroom door was taken off the hinges. Closet rod, which one uses for hanging clothes in the closet, was on the floor in the bedroom. How'd that happen?
That happened when I went to go grab my clothes, Your Honor. I was in my closet, and I went to go like this, bear hug all my clothes. When I did that, she pushed me into the closet.
You left that out.
I fell down, and that's how that curtain thing broke.
You left out the fact that she pushed you in the closet, Mr. Strong. How did the furniture get overturned in the living room?
I don't know about that one, Your Honor. When I came home...
How did the cell phone
get
broken in a lot of pieces, sir? How did that happen?
I don't know, Your Honor.
You don't know?
No.
You do know that you pled guilty to domestic violence.
Yes, I do know that.
Now, when you pled guilty to domestic violence, the judge asked you to make a statement as to exactly what you were pleading guilty to. What did you tell the judge you did on the 19th of August?
I just told the judge, basically, I defended myself. She came after me with a knife. I pushed her away, and after that, I went to go get my clothes out of my closet. She pushed me into the closet. She left, and that's when she jumped in the car, wrecked it, and
Mr.
I ran
Strong,
after her.
Mr. Strong, there are all different kinds of judges in this country, some brighter than others. None of them would have accepted the plea that you just outlined to me as
They
a plea.
did,
I'm speaking as a plea of guilty to domestic violence. Because what you said to me was that you pled guilty, although she was guilty of domestic violence. You must think that the whole world is stupid, including me.
Your Honor, that...
Yeah, listen to me, sir. That never happened.
That did happen.
Never happened.
That did happen.
Mr. Strong, never happened in this country, sir.
Okay.
Never.
Excuse me, Your Honor,
that's
that
what
is
did
what he
happen.
told the judge.
I want to tell you something. You're his mother?
Yes.
Listen to me.
I was
Listen to me.
in the court when he told the judge, and he's leaving out the fact that he had a cut from her cutting him with the knife.
Listen to me very, very
And that there are
carefully.
photos
I'm
and
speaking.
bruises
My
from
mouth
her.
is moving. No jurist in this country would accept a plea as outlined by your son, because what he told me was she came at him with a knife. In response to that, he went to the closet to get his clothes and left. That's what you told me.
Correct.
Right? The police support her version of the events because they say that the apartment was a disaster, which is what she says in her statement. Not that you were just waiting for her to come home and you had a discussion about money that escalated into an argument. You never put your hands on her. In addition to that, your statement and your plea to domestic violence totally fall without what I consider any kind of reason or common sense, which leads me to believe that she was escaping from your assault. She was escaping from your assaultive behavior. Put your hand down. And as such, sir, if she was escaping and if she totaled your car because she was trying to get away from you, deal with it. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All these are excuses. You may step out.
She was planning to leave me and didn't know how to tell me, so that's how she did it.
I wasn't planning on leaving him. I was planning on bettering myself.
She had another boyfriend on the side.
When a lot of people weren't there for me, he was. But in the end, his true colors showed.
I am glad it's over, and now I can get on with my life.
For all those girls out there who you think that you need help from anyone, you don't need help from no one. You do it on your own, just like I did it, and you'll make it. You'll make it with everything you got.
And now the next case. 26-year-old account specialist Beatrice Turrieta is suing her mother, tanning salon owner Beatrice Coleman, for having her falsely arrested and for the return of her belongings.
All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 470 on the calendar in the matter of Turrieta versus Coleman. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
Ms. Turrieta, this is your mom.
Yes.
And you're suing her for a couple of things. First, you were living with her and her boyfriend. I assume this is the boyfriend?
Yes, it is.
For a while. You and your husband?
Yes.
And children?
My baby.
Your
My
baby?
6-month-old
Your
son.
child. And there was some sort of a disagreement, a dispute. You left the house and you claim that your mother still has some of your property.
Yes.
That's one. Number two, you claim that your mother falsely reported to the police that you had stolen a credit card from her.
Correct.
And you were arrested.
Yes.
Your mom says that she has none of your property, and I don't understand her defense with regard to the credit card. Is what you're saying, Ms. Coleman, that you didn't call the police, but your boyfriend called the police?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, when did you and your husband and baby move in with your mother?
April 2004.
Why?
My mom didn't raise me. My father raised me from when I was 3 and my brother was 1 in New York. And I talked to my mom maybe 3 or 4 times a year for my whole life. She asked us to come there and come visit her, so I brought my son and we came to visit. I visited for about a month, and she said, why don't you come here with...
Well, what was your husband doing when you were visiting?
He
for
was
months?
still at work in North Carolina, where I'm from.
Okay, go ahead.
And then we were there for about a month, and John had come to visit 2 weekends, and she said, you should come here, save up all of your money, live with us, and you can save up enough money and get a house and come live here. So we did.
Where is here?
It's Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
And things were pretty normal and good for a little while.
Did your husband find a job?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
And I got a job at the end of August. After that, I think things went downhill from there. She was watching my son while I was going to work, and he had diaper rash almost every week to the point where his butt was bleeding, and I had to fix it every weekend.
Can you tell me on what day you moved out?
October 16th.
Had there been an argument?
Yes.
About what?
They came home, they had been drinking. My brother was back from Iraq with his wife, and they came into the house and they were stomping and slamming doors and screaming. And I asked my brother, I was like, can you be quiet? My son is sleeping. And he stood up and he was like, I don't have to be quiet, I don't have to do anything. And then Ron came up behind him and he was like, this is my house and this is my rules, and if you don't like it, you can get out. And he was screaming and acting like a psycho. So I went and got my husband, and he got in my husband's face and tried to start a fight with him and said, come on, big boy, come on, big boy. You want to do something?
I got it. So things were, so you left that night?
Yes. And she came into my bedroom and she brought her purse with her. She took out her wallet and she opened it up and she went to looking through her credit cards and she went to give me the black one that I use sometimes, and then she goes, oh, you have my GM card, why don't you just use that one? Get a week at the hotel, and I'll get you somewhere to live. At the end of the week, I'll get you somewhere to live.
Well, why would she get you somewhere to live if you were working and your husband was working?
Because she felt bad because we had moved there.
You had the credit card?
Correct.
Ms. Coleman, how did she get the credit card?
She had it. She was going to obtain some Barbie dolls for me at her job.
She gave it to me.
Just a second. When did you give her your credit card?
Probably 2 weeks prior to her leaving the house.
Does that sound familiar to you?
She gave me the card almost every day, all the time, for gas, cigarettes, everything.
How many times did she use the credit card? If I were to look at the slips from the credit card company, how many times before October had she used the credit card?
Probably about 6.
And would you give it to her each time, or was it in her possession?
Usually.
Not usually. Was it in her possession?
She kept it. She kept it. She kept it.
She kept it?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I'm going to get to the truth.
Yes,
you
ma'am.
understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I would like to see the police report that was filled out with regard to the credit card. Well, first of all, Mrs. Coleman, you filled out this police report. This is in your handwriting.
Yes, they made me.
Nobody makes you do anything, and you say here that she used it without my knowledge or permission.
Right.
Who made you? Your boyfriend?
No, when the sheriff came to the house.
Why did the sheriff come to the house?
Because he had checked our account online, and she had used
Who
it.
had?
My husband.
Yeah.
And she had used it at the motel room, charging $309. She went 3 different times in a matter of hours to the Meijer at the bottom of the hill and went on a shopping spree. Okay.
And so charged what?
Energy drinks, men's boxer shorts, women's bras, conditioner, shampoos, all the stuff that she brought the policeman to the house to get that night.
Ms. Coleman, I don't understand something, madam. I mean, I hear you talking about all the things that she charged on this. You're not talking about a lot of money. They all look like emergency things that one would use if they were staying temporarily someplace that they needed interimly, especially when you have a baby.
Right.
And you knew she had the card, and she had had the card before.
Right.
Don't you think the smarter idea, rather than involving the police in this, after you went online and saw that she had charged the hotel room and charged the other thing, to call the credit card company and say, listen, my daughter has the card. She's not authorized to use it anymore. I want to stop the use of the card. Do not let it be used again.
Prior to this, she had went to my salon and was mad at her husband, charged $680 some worth of tanning products. My husband and her had gotten to a confrontation over it, and he told her, you are not allowed to use this credit card unless your mother gives you permission. He said, because if you use this without my knowledge, he said, I will file a complaint on you.
Don't you think that it would have been smarter, more maternal, if you say to whatever his first name is, Joe, she's my daughter, she left the house, she's got my grandson with her, we don't want her to use the card anymore, just call the company and tell them, shut off the card. I don't want to involve the police, I don't want her to be arrested. Did you say that to him?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did he say?
Well, he said that he had already told her that she was not allowed to use it. And before she brought it back, minutes before she came to my house with the policeman standing there, she stopped and got a pack of cigarettes at the corner store.
You think he did the right thing?
No, ma'am.
You think you did the right thing?
Yes.
You did the wrong thing.
We attempted to take it back.
No. Your girlfriend says that you told her you can hold on to it, but if you use it again without your mother's permission or my permission, I'm going to call the police. And I'm saying, is she lying to me?
No.
Well, and I'm saying to you, if you didn't want the temptation there, you should have taken the credit card back. But you don't put her in a situation where she's got a baby and the police come to the motel and take her away and arrest her. That can stop a process going from which it's very hard to extricate yourself. Very stupid. But they were entitled to do it. And I somehow think that your mother is sorry that it happened. She's sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
I know.
You got it?
I know.
Okay. What does your mother have in the house that belongs to you?
I have pictures of some of the stuff, and then I wrote a list of all the things
Let
that
me
she
see.
has. And I called her and asked for his high chair, and she said, when I was in the hotel, because I said he was eating on the bed, and she said, well, he needs his high chair. And I said, I want my caricature and the calendar of him that I've been making of him since I was born. And she said, you know, I don't think I have those things. All I want is some respect. And she said, Ron's going to take care of it from here, and threw the phone down.
Okay. You have these things?
I see she showed you a little picture of a toy box that Nicholas is in. That's mine. I bought everything that she's talking about, and I have receipts. I have $10,000 worth of receipts. Mr. Turietti was asked if he had got everything out. He said, yes, he did. He looked at me and said, all's in there is garbage. I can go down to my job, get a truck, come up and throw all that garbage away if you want me to. I said, don't worry about it, John. I'll clean it up.
Did you go to the house?
Yes, Your Honor. I went on...
With or
Monday
without the police?
With the police.
Fine.
And before we walked in, they wouldn't let us in the house until they had the credit card and the key to the tanning salon. She had to come up from the hotel. We gave them back the credit card, but we are not allowed to go anywhere in the house except the bedroom. Our stuff was in the basement, in another closet.
There's a lot of junk here.
Yes, Your Honor.
All of this doesn't add up to the motel room, right?
Right.
So what are you doing here?
I want the calendar that I've been making of my son since he was born. There's no, you cannot put a price on that. I put pictures of
Okay,
him.
do you have the calendar?
No, ma'am. And if it wasn't all that garbage, and what I had done was bought cases
Do you have
of
the
Pampers.
calendar? The
No,
answer is
ma'am.
no. She doesn't have the calendar.
That's just to hurt me. That's just to keep things from me that are
She
of
doesn't
my
have it.
sons.
Listen, you used a credit card, and I think that you probably knew that you weren't supposed to use the credit card at the time when you used it, whether you did or whether you didn't. What he had to pay for as a result of your using the credit card is more than this.
They didn't pay for anything. That's why my case was dismissed on January 21st, because they could not provide the receipts because they didn't pay the bill.
Oh, really?
Really.
Is that right?
You would have to ask Ron about that. We did pay. The reason it was dropped is I'm going through some cancer treatments. I didn't feel like going to, I couldn't. I was throwing
All
up.
I want to know is, did you pay for the motel?
We've reported it to the credit card company
They did not.
as a misuse of the credit card.
So the answer is you didn't.
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Beatrice Turrieta says her mother, Beatrice Coleman, had her falsely arrested for credit card theft. Beatrice says her mother gave her that card.
You bought certain things for your grandson. Toy box?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. High chair?
No, ma'am. I don't have the toy, but I didn't. Oh, that's a walker, yes. But I don't have that. They have that.
Yeah.
But this you have?
Yes, ma'am.
You want this?
I don't have that other thing.
Just listen to me. Do you want this?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You have any problem with them having that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. If you want to go over there in the company of a peace officer within 5 days, you can get those things. Understood?
Understood.
Very good. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I was born to that, who I haven't seen since I was 3, and I will never see again.
I would have still give her the $3,000 if that's what she wanted.
She's not a mother. She doesn't know how to be a mother. She never will be a mother.
When she came to my house, she asked my husband where his connection was for cocaine. So I'm sure that's probably what she needed it for. Either that or a gallon of Captain Morgan every week.
I do like Captain Morgan, but I'm a little fat to be on the coke. You think?
She's been in prison before for welfare fraud.
I was in jail. I wasn't, and I've made mistakes in my life.
My dad told me I was selling my soul to the devil when I came to her house, and he was right.
Rick Martin is suing fellow motorists Jennifer and Dennis Hall for damage to his 2000 Mazda 626. Rick says the Halls ran into him in a gas station parking lot.
All rise. This is case number 475 on the calendar in the matter of Martin versus Hall. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Martin, it is your claim that the defendants, this gentleman in particular, caused damage to your car in an accident, and the accident was his fault. Mr. Hall says that it was your fault, and you don't know why, anyway, that you're suing him because he wasn't driving. It was Miss Hall who was driving the car. So you must have not been watching carefully.
Apparently.
When did this incident happen?
September 17th.
Where were you?
I was in Maitland, Florida, turning into a gas station.
What happened, Mr. Martin?
I was turning into the gas station to buy gas, and I seen the Halls coming at a very high rate of speed through the parking lot, so I stopped.
Through the parking lot or through the gas station?
Into the parking lot of the gas station.
There's a chart over there that the Halls brought. Is the red car yours?
That's similar to what happened.
Where were you coming from?
I was coming from the north, turning in just like that shows, and I stopped, and he come crashing into me. He was driving probably about 45 miles an hour through that parking lot.
Okay. What kind of a car were you driving, sir?
Mazda 626.
And where was the car hit?
Right in the passenger side in the front. Knocked the bumper
Do you have a
completely off.
photograph?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see it, please?
Sure.
Is there damage to the hood?
The bumper was knocked completely off, and the hood and all the lights were knocked out in the grill.
All right, now what happened after the collision, sir?
After the collision, I started to call the police, and Mr. Hall came over and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Please don't call the police. I'll have someone take care of your car for you." But my car was not drivable. So I proceeded with calling the police, and then I observed Mr. Hall removing the license plate from the car.
From whose car?
From his car. So when
Yes.
the police got there, I told him that he had taken the license plate off of the car and put it in the trunk. He went and found it, and then they claimed that Mrs. Hall was driving, but that is definitely not the case. So the police officer ticketed him for removing the tag from the car because that tag did not belong to their car, and then ticketed her for driving with no insurance and for careless and reckless driving.
On their statement that it was Mrs. Hall who was driving.
That's what they're claiming, yes.
But it wasn't Mrs. Hall who was driving.
No, ma'am.
It was Mr. Hall.
Mr. Hall was driving. And on page 2 is the correct diagram. It's very similar to that, but it shows my car in a straight line, not in an angle like that.
Why did you take the plate off the car, Mr. Hall?
Because the plate did not belong to that car, Your Honor.
Why not?
Because we put it on the car to transport the car to a sale lot to put the car up for sale.
Well, where were you coming from, Mr. Hall?
We were going from our residence to the gas station. We were putting gas into the vehicle and then taking the vehicle up to put it up for sale.
Where were you taking it to put it up for sale?
Literally 2 blocks away from there, which is also just a couple blocks away from our residence, Your Honor.
Well, Mr. Hall, that doesn't make sense, sir. It doesn't make sense that why you would be putting gas in a car to take it to a place for 2 blocks.
Because it was on dead E, and we're afraid the vehicle would run out if someone was to test drive it, Your Honor.
Oh. When did you buy this car, sir?
A few weeks before that, Your Honor.
From whom?
You're
looking down at your feet, sir.
I don't remember the gentleman's name, Your Honor.
Did you have a bill of sale for it?
No, ma'am, not on me.
Did you have it then?
No, ma'am, I did not.
You're pretty slippery, sir. Show me where your car was hit, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is your car?
The blue car, Your Honor, is our car.
Right. I got it.
And our car was hit
Now.
right where the highlighted spot is.
I see it. But you passed the gas tank, sir. Did you put gas in the car already?
Yes, ma'am.
Who put the gas in the car?
I believe I did. And I ran
I want
inside.
you to think. I want you to think. Who put the gas in the car?
I put in the gas, Your Honor.
Do you have a license to drive a car?
I do, yes, ma'am.
Did you then?
It was suspended, Your Honor.
So the answer is you did not have a license to drive then.
No, ma'am.
So you had no license, no registration, no insurance.
Yes, ma'am.
So there would have been a good reason for you to lie to the police and tell them that your wife was driving when you were driving. There would have been a reason and a motive because you would have been taken in
There would
if you
have
were
been.
driving on a suspended license. Isn't that correct, sir?
Yes, there's also a reason why I let her drive, because she is legal and not suspended.
Listen to me very carefully, sir. On your best day, you're not as smart as I am on my dumbest day.
I understand, Your Honor.
Good. My question to you was, there was a reason for you to lie to the police, to tell them that your wife was driving the car. There would have been a reason because you had already had your license suspended, right?
Yes, ma'am.
For what?
For not paying a seatbelt ticket, Your Honor.
Baloney. Now, where did you get the license plate from, sir, that you put on this car?
From one of our other vehicles.
How many other vehicles do you have?
2, Your Honor.
Who insures them?
My wife and I do.
With what company?
Progressive, I'm sorry.
And were the other 2 vehicles insured at the time of this accident with Progressive?
Yes, ma'am. May
Why
not have
was...
been.
What?
Excuse me, Your Honor. May not have been with Progressive. Progressive is our current one, I believe.
Well, why don't you tell me, sir, because it's very easy to check. Why don't you tell me, what was the other company that you were with back in September that insured your other 2 cars?
I don't recall the insurance company off the top of my name, Your Honor.
Off the top of your name, you don't...
Off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
You don't.
I'm nervous.
You're nervous because you're lying, sir. And you know that I'm going to be able to prove that. Before the police arrived, when you took the plate off the car and put it in the trunk, what did you hope to accomplish by that, sir?
Avoiding the ticket for attaching tag not assigned, Your Honor.
Now, don't you get a ticket for driving without tags, period?
Yes, Your Honor.
So what would be the difference in putting the tags in the trunk? You were going to get a ticket either way, either for driving with no tags or for driving with somebody else's tags on your car. So what difference did it make?
None. Except to try keep him from getting a ticket.
Well, don't you think people get tickets, sir, when they drive without license plates?
Yes, Your Honor.
Because that's why you supposedly took the license plate off one car and put it on another, so you wouldn't get a ticket,
Yes,
right?
Your Honor.
So that doesn't make sense to me. What did the police do with that license plate, sir?
They confiscated it, Your Honor.
And what did you do with the car from where the license plate had been removed?
The vehicle stayed right where it was, Your Honor.
And where is it to this day, sir?
In our driveway, Your Honor.
Without license plates?
It has been licensed and insured.
How did you get new license plates for it?
I just applied for a new plate, Your Honor.
You have to say what happened to the old plate, sir. If the car had been registered.
The vehicle hadn't been registered in our name prior to that, Your Honor.
Oh, so you had yet another car in your arsenal of cars that hadn't been registered in your name at the same date that you had this accident.
It's a vehicle that my sister allowed for us to drive because we didn't have a dependable vehicle at the time to drive, Your
Well,
Honor.
what about the third car that you had home, sir?
It wasn't.
Vehicle.
What?
It's a work vehicle.
What is a work vehicle? What does that mean?
It's a truck that we use to do landscaping and lawn maintenance. That
So?
pulls a trailer. And it's decaled up, and insurance will not cover that if we are in an accident when we are not working.
Okay, so we're going to do this. We're going to play. At the time of this accident on the 17th of September, 2004, who had a driver's license? Raise your hand. At the time of this accident on September 17th, 2004, who had a registered vehicle? On September 17th, 2004, who had a vehicle with appropriate tags on it? On September 17th, 2004, who was driving a car illegally? Good! Perfect. Okay. Shooting fish in a barrel. Can I see the estimate for your car, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
What a bunch of hustlers. Not you, Mr. Martin.
I also have, Your Honor, a letter from the Halls stating that Mrs. Hall is guilty of this charge because we originally had an agreement for the Halls to pay me $400 a month beginning on November the 10th. And I know you're not going to believe this, but that didn't happen.
The only thing that I don't believe, sir, is that you believed them, that it was going to happen.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Rick Martin says fellow motorists Jennifer and Dennis Hall ran into him in a gas station parking lot. Rick claims Dennis was the driver, but after the accident, he switched places with his wife.
I have a net total of $2,966.35. Is that your estimate?
That's the estimate to fix the rest of the damage. I've already spent over $2,000.
You have those bills?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see them, please.
In those estimates, Your Honor, he's also trying to recoup, he's trying to double charge for repairs that he made once originally on his first repair bill.
And I have a listing of those if you'd like to see it.
And then he's trying to get the same repairs covered again on his estimate he had previously handed you.
Are you trying to do that, sir?
No, ma'am.
Did you have a deductible on the car?
I had only liability. I did not have full coverage on the car because it's paid for.
Okay, what did Allstate pay you?
Allstate only paid the tow bills. And I tried to relay that message to the Halls, but they would not return any of my calls to find that out. So.
They wanted you to go away, like their license plates.
Yes.
Your Honor, he when he originally showed up at our doorstep, he was demanding the $14.95 and repayment as well as new headlights.
So how much? Just a second. So how much did you give him, Mr. Hall?
I gave him $0.
Well, now you're going to give him $4,834. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The first thing I thought was they were going to drive away.
We like to buy and sell vehicles, and my husband was in the back seat.
I didn't ask him what he was doing. I took a photograph of the license plate. I could still tell you the number of that license plate right now.
When the gentleman hit us, my husband bounded out of the back seat, driver's side, and of course everybody thought he was getting out of the driver's seat.
I think that they're professional con men or deadbeats. I don't know.
When Jennifer asked to see some type of receipts or anything, he didn't provide any. Instead, he just went and got additional estimates and came up with this claim with that.
When I went to his house, he told me that I was not the first person that he ran into. That would be why he doesn't have a driver's license.
Assistant Director of Human Resources, Naheed McGowan, is suing hair salon owner Manouk Kasabian for damaging her hair and scalp during a Japanese hair straightening process. Naheed also claims Manouk is guilty of sexual misconduct.
This is case number 456 on the calendar in the matter of McGowan versus Kasabian. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. McGowan, it is your claim that the defendant, who either owns or works in a beauty salon, straightened your hair, and he did so in an unprofessional manner, causing your hair to fall out and become dry, etc., etc. And in addition, you claim that he was unprofessional in the way he spoke to you during the course of his hair treatment. You want him to compensate you for all that you went through in the amount of $5,000. Mr. Kasabian says that he performed a service for you. He did so in a professional manner. And as a good businessman, when you came in and complained, he gave you a partial refund, but he certainly doesn't owe you any more. That's your defense.
That's right.
Okay. What kind of process were you putting on your hair, Miss McGowan?
Well, I actually went in to have my hair. It's called Japanese hair straightening. And I went in.
Had you ever had this Japanese hair straightening before?
No.
What prompted you to do it?
I had a curly hair, so I wanted to just kind of save time getting ready in the morning because I have a small child. So that's why I wanted to do this process.
How did you find the defendant's salon?
Well, actually, where I live, that's where his salon is. And then I actually went to post office, and I saw this huge sign. It says Japanese hair straightening, and I haven't seen that particular sign anywhere. So I assumed that he knows what he's doing.
So you went into his shop based upon the sign and based upon the fact that he was conveniently located?
Correct.
All right. Go ahead. Tell me what happened.
And I went in and I saw Mr. Caspian, and I asked him how much it would cost for have this process done, and he said it's about $300. I said, but that is a little bit over my budget, and he says, well, I'm not busy right now, so I would do it for you for $250. And I said, do you have time now? And he said, yes. I said, that's fine. And then immediately, I was sat on a chair, and then his assistant, Barry, start putting chemical on my hair. And then she proceeded to tell me, well, it's going to be kind of uncomfortable, this process. I said, how's that? She says, well, you have to go through a process of putting, put you under hot steaming cap, and then we have to rinse your hair with a very cold water. I said, okay. And she says, you have to go through this process at least 3 times. At this time, I was like really afraid, but I had chemical in my hair, so I sat there and I endured. And then after she was done with everything, she proceeded to tell me, well, your hair is like really uneven because now that you have your hair straightened. And then Mr. Caspian came over and he proceeded to cut my hair, and then I was wearing a cap, one of those robes they give you when you're going through the hair processing thing. And then I noticed that my chest was kind of showing, and then he was looking through the mirror. And I immediately, as soon as I realized that, I covered myself. And then he proceeded to ask me whether I was married. And I said yes. And then he says, oh, I hear you have an accent. Where are you from? And I said, well, I'm Persian. And then he says, well, I hear the Middle Eastern women, they're really good in bed. And they cook and they clean and bring home money and they give really good service to their husband. Do you do that for your husband? And I was like really shocked by this time, and I tried to keep my composure. I was so upset at this time.
Why didn't you just tell him it's none of his business?
Well, Your Honor, as a child, I was sexually assaulted. And then this whole situation, when you're sexually assaulted by anyone, when you're a child, the whole thing came up for me. And I was very upset at that time. I was actually retrieving. I was thinking, okay, this is not happening to me as a grown woman. And I was very upset. And then he proceeded to tell his assistant, pointing at this one woman, and he says, oh, she's very pretty. And then he pointed at her butt, and he said that I'd like to have some of that. And then I was just so shocked. And meanwhile, I'm like totally seeing my hair is just, I'm so upset about my hair, and this whole thing is happening. And then I asked his assistant, I said, is he married? And she proceeded to tell me yes. I said, and he goes, well, he also has a kid. I said, does that make you uncomfortable? He makes comments like that. And she proceeded to tell me, well, you just get used to it. And then they also told me that I have to buy some products in order to have the special,
All right, so far, listen to me, Ms. McGowan. So far, I don't hear lawsuit, madam. I hear you didn't have a nice experience, but I don't hear lawsuit.
Okay.
So far, what I'm hearing is you went in to get your hair processed. You'd never had this process before. You didn't ask enough questions. When they straightened your hair, it was uneven because certainly curly hair is cut differently than straight hair, so he cut your hair. And while he was cutting your hair, if I believe everything that you say, he acted like an idiot. He said things that were inappropriate. Okay, inappropriate doesn't equate to lawsuit.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Inappropriate translates to, he says stupid things.
Right.
You're married, do you cook, do you clean, do you service your husband? I hear women from where you are do that. If I believe you, and he's going to tell me it didn't happen, I'm sure, right?
Exactly, it did not happen.
Okay, but if I believe you, madam, that's not a lawsuit.
Exactly.
So then let's get on to the lawsuit, please.
Okay. When I got home, I had a massive headache. I actually had my scalp starting to feel really raw, and I called urgent care. So I went to see a doctor.
Let me see the report from urgent care.
This is the urgent care, and the receipt. They gave me Vicodin. They told me.
Are you showing me something from a psychiatrist?
Well, I'm showing you a couple of things. The very first page is from urgent care. I have a very bad headache, and my scalp was completely raw, and that's why they put me on Vicodin, which I've never taken before.
Okay.
And then after that, I couldn't sleep for 3 consecutive days, and called my primary physician, and he asked me to go to psychotherapist. And that's what you see, is a psychotherapist.
What else?
And then during this time, I actually went to another beauty salon who they knew how to retrieve my hair, and these are the costs. That I have the receipt, and also some of the product that I had to get to.
I don't hear anything wrong with your hair.
My hair is chemically burned, Your Honor.
Are you telling me that less than a month after this treatment, you went to another hair salon and had hair color, highlights, and a deep conditioner?
That's
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Madam, listen to me very carefully. Common sense suggests that if your hair is burned because you've had it straightened or because you've had it curled and have a permanent, and if it's not in good condition, the one thing you don't do is put more chemicals on it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Shahid McGowan says hair salon owner Manu Kasabian owes for damaging her hair during a Japanese hair straightening process.
I'm ready to listen to you, Mr. Kasabian. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, Your Honor, this lady, she walks into the salon like a month before she came back in. She said she saw the sign and she wanted to have like some knowledge about the way it's done. So I took the time and I explained to her from A to Z how it's done. So she left. Came back a month later, she just walked in. No
lying.
appointment, nothing.
You're
Listen,
completely
Miss
lying.
Miss McGowan, look at me. Don't speak. Did you hear how quiet he was when you were testifying? And you were testifying for 12 minutes? Listen! Did you hear how quiet he was when you were testifying? He didn't say anything. That's what you're supposed to do. Don't tell me shy. Don't tell me whatever brings back. I'm not interested. I want you to be quiet and let him testify. You had your turn. We understand each other?
Yes.
Okay, so she came in once, then she came back again July 13th.
So she came back the second time. She just walks in, no appointment, nothing. She says, I made up my mind, I want my hair done. I go, okay, sure, I'm not that busy, I'll do it for you now. So we started working on her. My assistant started to work on her, and then I came and I did the chemical straightening myself. During this time, I look at her hair, and her hair is like very uneven. So I said, can I trim it for you, fix it up? She said yes, so I went ahead and I cut it for her. And then she's saying that I'm looking at her hair through the mirror. How am I going to look at her breast, Your Honor? She has a cape on it, she's covered up. And then she paid for her hair, she was very happy, she left. Now 3 days later, she comes back in by herself. I'm very busy at the salon, I had like about 5 people we're working on. And she says to me, my hair is fuzzy, I need to talk to you. So I look at her from a distance, I go, come closer, let me look. My hands are full of color. I'm working on this lady here.
Which lady?
Miguera.
You were
She's
a
my
customer?
client.
Yes. Just a customer?
Yes, Your
Step up. Tell me your name.
Mayada Cillian.
Do you recall being in the shop, being a customer in the shop on the day when Miss McGowan came in?
Yes, Your Honor.
You don't know him from any other place other than the salon?
No.
Okay. Tell me what you heard.
Well, he was coloring my hair at the time that the lady walked in, and she was complaining about her hair being fuzzy. And to look at it, and he tells her, well, it went under chemical process. It's going to take time for your hair to rejuvenate, but it looks fine to me. You can't wash it until 5 days, but it could be touched up with a blow dryer or straight ironing. And she goes, well, I don't have a straight ironing. He goes, well, I know you don't have it, but we sell it here. They sell it everywhere else. If you'd like to purchase one, it's fine. Or you can just touch it up with a blow dryer. And she was still unhappy. She was complaining and started talking loud to him.
What did she say?
She said, well, that was not professional. I'm not happy at all with my hair, and you're really not giving me the attention. He says, if you want to take an appointment, I can condition your hair for you, give it back some moisture. You're more than welcome to come back. But now I can't do anything. I'm with a client. I am sorry that you feel that way. She walks out unhappy and leave and come back maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes later with her husband doing another big scene.
Well, what happened when she came back with her husband?
She came back with her husband. He was done coloring my hair. I had the process on. He was cutting another lady's hair. And she walks in with her husband. Her husband asked him to step out. And Mr. Manouk says, I can't leave my client and step out. He goes, if you don't step out, I'm going to make a big scene in your salon. So Mr. Manouk said, you already made a scene. Let's just hear it, what you have to say. He just started yelling and cussing and using bad words, and all the clients were surprised. I mean, he had other people sitting there that they were really upset and got up and started telling them, please, to be quiet and calm down. And he won't do that. They were both upset. They threatened to do a lawsuit, and they said, we want our money back. You're not giving us our money. He says, I can't give you the money for something I did right. They wanted the money back for their product that they purchased. He says, no problem. You bring the product. I give you the money back.
Your Honor, she wanted to keep the product and have me pay her back the money for the product and the hair.
So after 5-10 minutes of being loud and talking, Mr. Manouk just asked him to leave because it was a really big scene in the salon.
Mr. McGowan, you want to step up here, sir? Why did you go into the salon that day?
Well, after seeing my wife very upset and crying for several days, couldn't sleep for 3 or 4 days, I finally asked her what is wrong, and then she told me that she went to a salon and he didn't have the time of day for her. So she said, will you come back with me? I just want my money back. And so we went into the salon. I said, Mr. Kasabian, we need to talk to you. about her hair
She
situation.
said you made a scene in the salon.
Here's what I said. I said, we need to talk to you about your hair salon. Can you talk to us now? No, I'm busy. I said, you wouldn't talk to my wife a while ago. I said, you need to talk to her now. Either you talk to her now or everybody's going to hear it.
Well, why would you do that, Mr.
There was-
McGowan? That's outrageous. Sir,
Because
listen to me. That's outrageous. Sir, your wife walks in the middle of a business day. She wants his attention while he's working on somebody else. And because she wasn't instantaneously gratified, she went home. She cried to you. You went back to the store and he was working on somebody else. And you said, if you don't take care and speak to my wife immediately, you made a scene. Well, for you and your wife to walk into a business that's a busy salon and make a scene because you didn't get instant gratification is outrageous.
Your Honor, he burned my hair.
And you reburned it 3 weeks later.
No, I didn't.
Are you wearing a wig now?
No, I
Your
didn't.
hair looks just fine to me. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Why does that excuse you may step out?
Just because my hair looks good now, it doesn't look like a porcupine. It doesn't mean that I did not endure a lot of headaches.
I think there are a couple of con artists that would try to get something for nothing.
I had to go to psychotherapy to just be able to endure his misconduct.
I think she's psycho already, and she should be put away.
Eric Lewis is suing his ex-girlfriend, cashier Nikki Christensen, for fraudulently claiming their daughter on her taxes.
Your Honor, this is case number 576 on the calendar in the matter of Lewis versus Christensen. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Mr. Lewis, who is this young lady?
This is my fiance.
And Miss Christensen, who is this gentleman?
This is my husband, Jamie.
Are these people here for moral support? Is that what this is all about?
Character.
Character. I acknowledge the fact that the two of you have a character. You also have a child together.
Yes.
You have any other children?
No, I don't.
You have any other
I
children?
have 2 other children.
How old are they?
A 4-year-old and a 16-month-old.
And how old is the child that you share?
She's 7.
Did you live together before she was born?
Yes.
For how long?
Before she's born, year and a half.
Did you live together after she was born?
Yes.
For how long?
Almost 2 years.
Any reason why you never married?
Just didn't work out.
Different goals in life.
Different goals. But the one goal that you had in common was having a child together. Perfect. This is what the case is about. After you separated, ultimately, the courts got involved and set up a child support order as well as an order that directed that each of you would change claiming the child as a deduction on your income tax returns. This past year was your year, Mr. Lewis, to claim the child as a deduction. The caveat was that you had to be current with your child support. When you went to claim the child on your tax returns, you were advised by, I assume, your tax preparer that Mrs. Christensen had already claimed her as a deduction, despite the fact that the court order allowed you to do it. So you want what would have been your refund for the child.
That's right.
Ms. Christensen says that you were not current in your child support payments, and therefore it didn't trigger your claiming the child as a deduction. She is counterclaiming for some nonsense, which says that because your check is garnished for your child support, a certain amount is deducted for administrative costs for the deduction of your child support, and she thinks that you should pay her that amount. That's what your counterclaim is. It's really nonsense. That's something that the state imposes, not the plaintiff. Okay? Let me see the last order of support and the first order of support.
That's the only order that was made.
Yeah.
One order.
Mm-hmm.
You petitioned the court, is that right, sir?
Yes, I did.
For an order of paternity, custody, and or visitation. Was that because you were having problems with visitation?
Yeah, she told me I had no rights to my daughter. And
How long have you been married, Miss Christensen?
5 years.
How often were you seeing your daughter at the time that Miss Christensen got married?
Every other Sunday. Started out as the weekends and on to Sundays. Her and one of my ex-girlfriends had a fight.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Sure.
Mr. Lewis has been sporadic with his visitation with his daughter. It is true, me and one of his girlfriends who, at the time, we didn't get along, and we got in an assault fight kind of concept on one of his visitations. So at that time, I asked that he had his visitation with my daughter at his parents' house. And then that way there wouldn't be any problems with anybody's relationships. I didn't want to be in an argument and a fight every time we had to drop or pick up our daughter. I didn't want to go over to his house and be assaulted by his girlfriend.
Well, that's absolutely correct. He shouldn't be in contact with anybody, but that doesn't mean he has to have visitation with his child at his parents' house.
I understand that, Your Honor, but Mr. Lewis has been in and out of jail for drug charges. He's led a very colorful life, and I didn't feel that
Did you know about that when you had a
I did, and he was going to
I'm
rehab.
speaking. Did you know about that when you had a child with him?
Correct, and he was going to rehab.
Then you picked him.
Mm-hmm.
He's your child's father.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. Can't come as a surprise to you. Okay. It's clear pursuant to this agreement, Ms. Christensen, that Mr. Lewis had the right to claim your daughter on his tax returns for this year. And you did. Why?
Your Honor, he was not current.
Show me.
Okay, I have a paper here from the state.
What is your child support obligation, sir?
$216 a month.
Okay.
He was not current on his child support or his medical obligations.
Just a second. Wait 1 second. I'm looking at January. I want to find January.
I have one starting from January.
Okay. How much is owed? Just take a look at it, and I want you to read out.
$46.14 was owed.
$46?
Correct. On just the child support.
Just a second. That's all I'm interested in. $46.
Correct, Your Honor.
So that's not a reason to claim the child on your tax returns as a dependent. I will tell you that right now. Shh. And aside from the fact that he says he paid it, that $46 from whatever amount that was, but at $216 a month for the past year, if what he is $46 in arrears, I think it's overreaching, Mrs. Christensen, for you to claim that is the reason that you didn't follow the court order. You say it's more than that. So tell me what's more.
I gave him a list of the items that he owed.
I'd like to see it.
And
when did you give him the list?
He knew at the time when.
When did you give him the list?
I gave him the list in
February 10th.
January, and he
just a second.
also...
Wait, whoa. Why did you wait until after the first of the year to give him a list that said that he owed Tanner Clinic $25 copay, Visual $45 copay, and health insurance for 2004 $350 yearly? Why?
Because Mr. Lewis never contacted me to ask me.
I want to tell you something.
Anything.
You're slick. You're slick, but nasty. You're a slick lady, but a nasty lady.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Eric Lewis says ex-girlfriend Nikki Christensen owes for declaring their daughter on her taxes. Nikki claims Eric is neglecting their child.
This was within your control. And if you said to me that in November I sent him a list and I said to him, this is what you owe to keep yourself current with regard to the court order, then I might have sympathy for you. It is disingenuous of you to send him this in January. You got it?
I understand.
Good. Now, how much of a benefit did you obtain by claiming the child this year on your tax returns?
I'm not even sure the full amount, Your Honor.
Do you know?
I know what I lost, not what she would have made.
Well, what did you lose?
$2,900.
Show me.
I have the copy when it was first done, and then when it was done a couple days later after they told me she'd already been claimed.
May I say something, Your Honor?
Sure.
I didn't feel it was my job to go out and babysit him and tell him, you need to be paying me this. That's why I originally went and got involved with the state, to garnish his wages.
Listen to me, madam. You didn't file the petition. He did. He asked the court to set a support order. He asked the court to set a visitation order. That's the caption of the petition. Put your hand down. Doesn't mean you have to babysit him. It just means that you have to be a reasonable person. And if you had obligations that you felt as if he should have paid in 2004 in order to let him claim the child as a deduction, if you were being a reasonable person, you would have advised him of that on the 1st of December instead of sucker punching him and waiting until January 10th when he could no longer comply with his obligation. Put your hand down. Does it sound like you're losing?
No, ma'am.
You chose him to father a child, and it would probably be a hell of a lot easier for you now that you're married and have 2 other children if he were no longer in your life, if he took a powder someplace and wasn't involved. Unfortunately, life doesn't work that way. You two are tied to each other. Get used to it. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $2,900. Your counterclaims dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Mr. Lewis has been in and out of her life, and until he's been in a serious relationship, didn't choose to really have a very adequate relationship with his daughter.
I had my daughter every other Sunday for 2 years before this.
I hope they build and bond and grow.
Oh, I'll still have her every other weekend.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Riley versus Kent. Step forward.
25-year-old restaurant manager Cody Riley is suing his former roommate, 20-year-old barista Zachary Kent, for selling his property while he was in jail. Zachary says he used the money to move back home.
Mr. Riley, I have some preliminary questions for you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you?
I'm 25.
Are you a college graduate?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you graduate from school?
Ashworth College in Atlanta, Georgia.
And were you working at the time?
At the time I got my degree, yes, ma'am.
What were you doing?
I was a restaurant manager for Jack in the Box restaurant in Texas.
When was the last time you worked full-time, sir?
I'm currently working now.
When did you start this current job?
A week and a half ago.
Prior to that, where did you work?
Prior to that, I was incarcerated.
For how long?
19 months.
So the last real job that you had was in 2001, working for Jack in the Box?
There was another one I had. I did my own web hosting and internet design.
When was the last time you filed federal tax returns?
In 2003.
And what amount did you claim that you earned in 2002?
A couple of thousand.
2002, did you file tax returns for 2001?
Yes, ma'am.
From working in Jack in the Box?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did you earn there?
19 and change.
19,000?
19,000, yes, ma'am.
These are just preliminary questions to what your case is about. You were incarcerated, according to what I read in your complaint and in the defendant's answer, for creating bad checks.
Yes, ma'am.
Not writing bad checks, but creating the checks
yes, ma'am.
On your computer.
Yes, ma'am.
And your complaint is that you and Mr. Kent had been good friends. You decided to move from Texas to Kansas City. And you did move there. You were older by 4 or 5 years. Is that right?
Yes.
Speak.
Yes, Your Honor.
Shortly after you arrived in Kansas City, you were arrested for these bad checks and incarcerated. The whole process probably took a couple of years. Shortly after you were arrested and incarcerated, Mr. Kent sold all of your property.
Yes, ma'am.
And with the money, moved himself back to Texas. You don't deny that you did that. Could you answer me? This is a television program.
No, ma'am.
It's not a silent movie. Right?
Yes.
All right, good. Now, why did you sell all of his property?
He paid for my way up there. I felt that he had to pay for my way back.
He's out in Kansas. You're in jail.
Yes, ma'am.
He wants to go home. He doesn't want to click his heels together and say, take me back to Kansas. He wants to click his heels and say, take me back to Texas. How'd you expect him to get there?
I had told him recently, whenever I spoke with him, that had he asked or something like that, I would have done something. But taking all of my belongings that cost far more than a trip back to Texas, and
what belongings did he take, Mr.
I have a list of all the belongings that I had in my apartment, including a television, stereo, furniture, dishes, clothing, 2 pet dogs.
Let's see it. Mitsubishi television set that you paid how much for?
$2,099.
Where'd you get the money from?
I had my web hosting company, so I had money from that, and my mother also helped to pay for it.
You see the beginning questions that I'm asking you, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Now you're getting red. Now you're getting flushed. I want to tell you something that is apparent to me. We just went through the last 4 years of your life. The last 4 years of your life suggest to me that you had no discretionary income. So I want to know where you got the money for thousands and thousands of dollars worth of stuff, sir. Is it possible that some of this stuff was purchased with the proceeds from your forged checks?
Yes, some of it probably was.
You're coming into this court and saying, well, I wrote a whole lot of bad checks that I paid for, a lot of extras for in my life. He had no right to sell it, and I want you to give me that money back.
Your Honor, some of it was obtained through legal means as far as my jobs over the course of several years. Some of it was obtained via credit and with the help of the family. I've got receipts for those showing that they were credit and cash purchases.
I don't care whether they were credit or cash purchases, or you were forging checks and cashing them.
And I also paid restitution on all of that.
How much did you pay?
$3,000.
This is $10,000 worth of merchandise, sir. How do you expect a court to differentiate between what you got through legitimate means and what you got through your forged checks?
Some of the money I had probably came from the checks, but some of it came from the web hosting company as well. Some of it came
and
from
I'm
family.
saying to you, you expect a court to spend 1 second of time, Mr. Riley, in trying to decipher what property you purchased through the sweat of your own brow, through legitimate means, and what property you purchased by using forged checks?
No.
And you expect me to spend a moment of my time?
No, Your Honor, the police...
Good! Because I'm not. Thank you very much. Your case is dismissed. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't know what was going on until he went to jail, and I spoke with his lawyer.
My theft then, I did my time. His theft now, and he's getting away with it.
He just told me that he made a mistake and he didn't mean to do it.
Whenever the police department did come in, I told them that he had nothing to do with it. He didn't know I was involved.
He wanted me to bond him out, but I wasn't going to.
The person who I had brought with me and I thought was a friend had, in the end, stabbed me in the back.
Melissa Kane is suing her deceased boyfriend's son, courier Terry Teague, for locking her out of her home and getting rid of her belongings. Terry is countersuing for pain and suffering.
Yeah, this is case number 573 on the calendar in the matter of Kane versus Teague. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Ms. Keene, according to what I've read in your complaint, you were living with Mr. Teague's father at the time of his death.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that after his father died, you were put out of the apartment that you had lived in for some time, and some property there belongs to you.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you're suing for. He is counterclaiming. He says that you stole some money from his father and you canceled an insurance policy on the car and kept the premium for yourself. So he is counterclaiming for that. How old was your father when he died, Mr. Teague?
71.
And how long had he been living with Miss Keene?
Off and on for 2.5 years, 3 years.
No, ma'am.
How long?
4 years.
When did you meet him?
Met him in 2000.
Where?
At a friend's bar I was working for. She needed some help. He had come in. He had some racing coins.
Okay. And when did you move in together?
In October of 2000.
You moved into his house?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Teague says you lived on and off. Is that accurate?
No, ma'am. We separated once because of a flood in East Ridge. Our house was flooded out, and I had to leave for about a month and a half.
Where did he go?
He stayed there in the house.
Why didn't you stay?
They wouldn't let me because of epilepsy and the breathing machine that I was on. FEMA put me out of the house till it could be bleached back out.
Okay, when was that?
That was in
May of 2003.
Okay. Other than that separation, you had lived in the house continuously?
Yes, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Well, tell me about your understanding of the situation, sir.
She has an apartment, or she had an apartment in government housing in Chattanooga.
Mm-hmm.
She has a serious drug problem. She would leave the house to go do her drugs, and then she'd bag her way back into my dad's house.
How did you know that, sir?
Because I've seen her stoned. She told me she had a drug problem. Her mother told me she had a drug problem. My father told me she had a drug problem.
When did she tell you she had a drug problem?
Oh, probably after the house flooded. And she was gone for 9 months when the house flooded.
When did she move back into the house with your father?
She got in trouble living in her apartment. She got into a fight with one of the girls that lived next door in the government housing. In January of 2004, she had to go to court. My father paid to get her bond and to get her out of jail and to her fine in court. And I have a check that my father wrote her for $2,600.
Your Honor, that check was from FEMA. That was my money to start with. His father did have it, but it had nothing to do with what his father had.
See the date, ma'am? And our court case for that was in March of that same year.
March of 2004?
Yes, ma'am. The flood was in May of 2003.
Gotcha. Okay. What items, Ms. Keene, do you claim are in the house that belong to you?
The living room suit belonged to me. And
do you have a receipt for it?
No, ma'am. I could not go back in the house.
Just a second. Where was it purchased?
I had bought it from a friend. It was a used living room suit,
I purchased it from a lady that I'd met through the projects.
Well, then all you had to do was get a receipt from her when you're coming to court.
I could not find her.
What else?
He kept items that his father had gave me, a gun, and his father told him the Saturday before he died that he did want me to have that gun. He kept my clothes.
Just 1 second. Mr. Teague?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any of her clothing?
No, ma'am.
Did you either discard, give away, throw away any of her clothing?
The only thing I got rid of is the stuff that she left behind the day that she come to the house to pick up her belongings. It was a one-time deal. Get everything of yours here and go. I have a police report stating.
Can I see the police report, please? What you're telling me, Mr. Teague, is that they were not living together in January of 2005. Is that correct?
January of 2004.
They were not living together, and your father passed away?
In October of 2004, October 30th.
October the 29th, Your Honor.
And there were times when she stayed with your father?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, a week before he died, did your father call you to the house, and she was there?
2 weeks before my father passed away.
2 weeks.
Melissa called me to the house.
It's Melissa.
Yes, ma'am.
So she was
called
living
me to
there?
the house. She was staying there at that time.
Okay.
She told me she was leaving. She said, I'm tired of putting up with him. I'm leaving. And I said, well, that's fine. I can take care of my father.
Had she been taking care of him up until that point? He was ill.
No, ma'am.
Just a second. If she wasn't there, and you just said to me, Mr. Teague, be very careful, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
If you said, well, I can take care of my father.
Right.
That presupposes that someone else was taking care of him, and that would have been Miss Keene for at least a period of time. If she called you and said to you, I'm not taking care of him anymore,
I'm leaving.
I'm leaving, then she had been taking care of him.
Okay, yes.
Don't play with me, sir.
I'm not, ma'am.
Good. How long had she been taking care of him?
Well, in September was when the cancer come back. He had cancer, had taken treatments, had gotten better, and then it came back. So he was in the hospital for a couple of weeks.
Your Honor.
Yes.
He was in the hospital for a week. He had got sick that night. I took him to the hospital. I couldn't get in touch with none of his children. We got him to the hospital. Ken's children come in and tried to throw me out of the hospital. Ken told the hospital to throw his children out and bring me back to the room. I stayed there at the hospital with him for 1 week, did not leave, lived there for 1 week in the room with him.
Okay, so what I want to know is how long did you take care of him? 2 months before he died?
For a year with the cancer.
Well, were you living there,
Yes,
madam?
ma'am.
But you were arrested in January of 2004 over an incident that occurred in another location.
Yes, ma'am. We kept the other apartment. Ken wanted me to keep it because I had stuff in it.
I just want to know, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Listen carefully. How long were you living full-time taking care of him after he got sick?
For over 6 months.
All right, so we're down from a year to 6 months. That's all.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Melissa Kane says her deceased boyfriend's son, Terry Teague, trashed her belongings. Terry claims Melissa stole money from his late father.
What other property do you claim is there that's yours?
The curtains, my TV was there.
You were unable to produce a receipt for the television.
The stuff was in the house. Mr. Teagues and the cop, which were friends, would not let me go back in the house to get anything, any receipts.
Listen to me. You went back into the house.
No,
According to the police, you retrieved personal property, but you were not permitted to take the television set.
They never let me go back in the house.
What else? Ms. Keene, what else?
I had a Dutch oven stove in the back.
Do you have any proof that any of these items belong to you?
It was all in the house, Your Honor.
I don't care if it was in the house, madam. The house was not yours.
Right, and they wouldn't let me go in it to get nothing.
I asked you a simple question.
No,
Do you
ma'am.
have any proof that any of these items were yours?
No, ma'am.
Well, I can't help you, Ms. Keene. Let's get to your counterclaim, Mr. Teague.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It's your claim that first Ms. Keene stole money from your father's wallet.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that.
The night my father passed away, when I got to the house, Miss Keene was there, and there was already several people there, including the police and the fire department. I went in the house. The funeral home had called, told me the information they needed. I needed his Social Security number. I tried to find his wallet. I looked all over the house, could not find it, and I walked into the living room and said, no one's going to leave here now till my dad's wallet shows up. So, in a few minutes, Miss Keene walked down the hallway back into my father's room and found my dad's wallet laying on top of the pants that I had picked up and checked the pockets to see if the wallet was there.
Okay.
The day that she came to the house to retrieve her belongings, she got angry because the policeman would not allow her to have the television. So she said, I want to see your supervisor. I want to see him now. The officer backed up and was calling on the radio to get his supervisor there. She looked me in the eye and told me that that's okay. I took $700 from his wallet the night he died, and I told her she wouldn't get another penny.
So when she wouldn't get the TV, is what you're telling me she said to you, I'm not going to get the TV, I'm just telling you I took money.
Yes, ma'am. And I have a witness.
Yeah.
I have a witness who heard it.
Who are you?
I'm Steve Kyle. I was there when she came to pick up her items.
How are you related to this family?
Terry's my roommate, so I knew the whole thing, everything that was going on.
Tell me what you heard.
Oh, well, when she found out she wasn't going to get the TV out of the house, that's when she made this statement. She said, that's okay. I took $700 out of your dad's wallet the night he died.
Your Honor, I've never met this gentleman, never seen him in my life, could not tell you who he is. He was not there that day. I did not take no money out of his father's billfold. His father's billfold was under the bed. His daddy, when he died, I was there by myself. I done called the doctor once because Ken didn't sound right. And Terry come in, and the doctor told Terry that he was dying. Terry turned around and said, I've got a card game, and did not tell me he was dying, and left. I called the doctor back myself 30 minutes later when it got worse, and the doctor told me, he said, Miss Kane, I'm going to tell you just like I told his son, if you want to bring him to the hospital, you can, but it's not going to do no good. I said, you mean he's dying? He said, yes, ma'am, I told his son that. I tried to call Mr. Teague's back. He would not answer his cell phone. So I went back in there, and I held his daddy in my arms by myself till he took his last breath. And then when he took his last breath, I laid him down on the bed. And when Terry got there, after the police and everybody else got there.
Had you been there earlier that evening, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't you stay?
When I got there, my father was real upset because Melissa wanted to take him to the hospital. My father hated hospitals. He didn't want to go to the hospital. So I said, settle down. I'll call the doctor and ask him. My father was coughing up blood. I called the doctor. The doctor told me this is common for someone taking chemotherapy. Have your father just stay there and rest at home.
So the answer is, you were there earlier when your father was coughing up blood, and you left. Mr. Teague, answer my question.
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you go when you left?
After we got my father calmed down, I went to home. My sister was in from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She was leaving to go home the next day. I went and visited with her.
Well, how much time did she spend with her father?
The whole week that we were on, she was in on vacation. Me and my two sisters were there every day.
I don't think I believe that, Mr. Teague.
Well, it's the truth, Your Honor.
I don't think I believe that. If your sister was leaving, and the reason your sister came was because of your father's health, and you got a call from Miss Kane that was sufficiently serious for you to go over there, I don't see why your sister, who was another child, wouldn't have gone over there at the same time. And upon seeing your father in a condition where he was coughing up blood and being agitated, considering what you've told me about Miss Keene, I wouldn't have gone anywhere. If it were my father, I would have stayed around.
May I answer?
Sure.
Okay. We got him settled down. He had coughed up a little blood. The doctor said that was common. One of the neighbors come over. We sat in the living room for an hour and a half watching TV. He was fine. Had I known my father was going to die that night, I would have never left that room. I mean, he had been sick for 15 months. There was no way that I knew my father was going to die.
She stayed with him. At least he didn't die by himself, right?
Right. That was one of his wishes.
That what?
That he didn't die by himself.
Well, you weren't there. She was there.
That's who he wanted there, ma'am.
That's who your father wanted.
Right.
Don't you think it's about time that you put a period, Mr. Teague?
I'm not understanding the question.
I'm asking you about your counterclaim, sir.
She took money from my father.
I don't know that. Maybe it was her money. If there was money in the wallet, maybe it was her money. But that's what I mean when I say you put a period, Mr. Teague.
I've wanted to put a period. She won't allow me to put a period.
Well, you're putting a period now. It could have been very, very easy, Mr. Teague. It was all over a television set. Why don't you just let her take the television set? What is the big deal? I mean, I'm not going to award her the television set because, quite frankly, she had, Miss Keene, put your hand down, because, quite frankly, she doesn't have proof that she purchased it. But it would, put it down. But it would seem to me that if what you're telling me is your father, whether she was a good person, a bad person, a mediocre person, your father wanted her with him when he died. She did that. She took care of him. I don't care if it was for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month or 2 months. She ministered to him on a daily and nightly basis when you and your sister and whatever other siblings there might be were out doing your own thing, whether it was working, playing, at least at the end, she was there ministering to him. So for that, you should say thank you. And if the whole thing was over a television set, quite frankly, Mr. Teague, it's distressing to me as a human being. Why would you would not have said, listen, you want the TV? Take the TV. My father's not going to watch it anymore. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
You want to show you what he did with my stuff?
Yes.
These are the pictures, and all that was mine is under the clear bags, and he left them out there for over a week. I've got a few things in this bag I'd like to show you. He ruined all my stuff. He gave away all of my groceries. He gave away...
All right, stop, don't tell me about groceries. I was beginning to feel a little sorry for you.
Can I show you the clothes?
Why did you put her stuff outside?
Because when I went to check on my father's insurance and seen that the day we buried my father, she left the graveyard and went straight to where he had his insurance and canceled his insurance on his 2 vehicles and collected the premium. I felt like she had disrespected him for the last time and that I wasn't going to allow her back.
Okay, just a second. So tell me about the insurance policy, Ms. Keene.
The insurance was mine and Ken's.
Can I say, please?
Yes, ma'am. And he had...
Was it their joint policy?
Her name was on the policy.
Then she had a right to cancel it.
I don't understand that.
Your father wasn't driving anymore, Mr. Teague.
I understand that.
And if her name was on the policy, she had the right to cancel the policy and to collect the premium. That's her right. She's the policy holder, not you. She. And you had no right to throw her stuff out. That was the wrong thing to do. I think that you acted badly, Mr. Teague. I think that you acted very badly. While your father was sick, while he was coughing up blood, while he needed assistance in getting to the bathroom, while he needed assistance in showering, bathing, keeping himself clean, feeding himself, neither you nor your siblings were there ministering to him. For whatever period of time it was and for whatever kind of a person she is, she was there, and she was the person your father wanted there. He didn't say to you when you came, do me a favor, get rid of her. I want you to sit and hold my hand. It's not what he said, and you just told me that. So if that's what your father wanted, and she gave him a little bit of peace before he died, and at the moment of his death, you acted badly. He acted badly in going to the house and taking her keys and telling her to leave. You acted badly over really nothing, no money. I mean, we're not talking about any big money.
No, ma'am, but we were talking about guns, and she has a criminal past that she didn't need to have a gun.
Sir, what are you, the morals monitor?
No, ma'am.
Your father liked her. She was your father's girlfriend. Have you ever been married?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
3.
Quiet. Did your father like all of your wives?
Yes, ma'am.
Bad judgment. You didn't. But if he didn't like all of your wives, would that have made a difference to you?
No, ma'am.
No. So, your father picked her. You didn't like her? That's too bad for you. But you can't put her stuff outside like this and ruin it because you got into a hissy fit because she canceled insurance that she had an absolute right to cancel. You can't do that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all. Dismissed.
Not winning anything's not important to me. I work for a living. I don't need the money.
Mr. Teagues told a few lies, and the judge called him.
I didn't want her there. He wouldn't allow me to remove her.
Finally, at last, I can let my baby rest in peace.
She's a crack addict.
He has a gambling problem.
Her mother told me she had a drug problem.
Plus, he's an alcoholic.
This is over. It's done with. Never, never again.
I'm glad it's over with, and my daughter is not a crackhead.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Haney versus Darling, step forward, please.
24-year-old Penelope Haney and her brother Ronald are suing their former friend, 22-year-old student Jennifer Dorling for the value of a computer. The siblings claim Jennifer borrowed the computer and for some reason threw it away.
Miss Haney, the defendant is your son's aunt.
Yes.
And who is this?
My brother.
Ronald.
According to your complaint, the defendant borrowed your brother's computer.
Yes.
And either won't return it, or she says she threw it out because she stored it for you long enough. And she also has a desk that I assume went with the computer. And she says it's an old piece of junk that you can have back, but she no longer has the computer.
Right.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding her getting the computer.
In February of 2004, she started asking me to ask my brother if she could use it because my brother had lent it to me.
Weren't you using it?
No, I didn't need it. I wasn't in school anymore, and I didn't have a phone, and she wanted to use it for internet purposes, so.
So what kind of a computer is it?
A Dell, a Pentium 4.
When did you ask for it back?
He asked for it back in May, and she said it wasn't a good time to come and get it.
Who did you ask for it back?
I asked her for it, and she told me she has to take a few days to get some stuff off it.
Is that right?
Yes.
Why didn't you get the stuff off it and return it to them?
I did take the stuff off it. I was moving in the beginning of June, and when I had spoke to Ron, I told him to come get it by May 25th because he had said that...
Shh. Don't listen. Don't speak to her. Where's the computer now?
I threw it out.
Why?
Because I just got tired of storing it.
You weren't storing it, you had borrowed it.
I never borrowed it. I was doing her a favor because she didn't have a phone line.
Just a second. Listen, Miss Dorling, you don't want me to torture you, do you?
No.
Listen to me very carefully, madam. If she didn't have a phone line, that's not a reason for you to take the computer and put stuff on the computer that you had to take off the computer, because clearly, based upon what you said, you had been using it, enjoying it, putting your own information on it, because when he called you in May and said, I'm speaking. When he called you and said, I want to come and get my computer, you said, it's not a good time, I have to get stuff off it. So you weren't storing it, you were using it.
The both of us, both Penny and I, were both using it.
Fine.
Then what happened?
Shut. Listen to me.
Sorry.
You don't say you're sorry again. If you do it again, you're out of here. You got it? When did you call him and tell him that he should come and pick it up?
He had called my house one day, and I said, well, I'm moving, and I told him, I said, come get it by May 25th, and if you don't, you've lost it, because I'm moving, and I don't want to move it.
What, are you crazy? What, are you nuts?
No.
Oh, yeah, you are. When did you call them to tell them, I've gotten the stuff off the computer, you can have it back now?
He had called me, and I told him...
So the answer is you never called.
I didn't know the phone number. I didn't know
you
where
just
he was.
told me, Miss Dorling, that the two of you were using the computer.
Yes.
Well, so then you saw her.
Yes, but I didn't see her in May much.
Then she wasn't using the computer in May. Just you were using it.
It was at my house, yes.
Just you were using it. How much you paid for the computer?
We have the receipt, $776.
You got a lot of nerve. I don't even know if you threw it out. Why would you throw away a perfectly good computer?
Because in July, Ron and his mother had come to my house, and his mother had physically attacked me in my home in front of my daughter.
Over the computer?
Yes. I told her to get out of my house, and if she got out of my house, I would get it. Ron told her to back off of me, and I got her out of my house, and I locked the doors. I called the police, and then I went into the computer room, or the bedroom.
So what you're telling me is, from May all through the summer, they wanted the computer back.
That was July 2nd.
What? She wanted the computer back.
I hadn't heard from them. Ronnie had called once after I had moved and threatened I'll get the money one way or the other. And
what do you mean you get the money one way or the other? That's not something that somebody does, unless you were stalling giving him the computer. What did she say to you when you called?
I called again. I was like, all right, Jen, I'm coming to get my computer. And she told me now is not a good time. And I was like, well, now is not a good time for you, but it's a good time for me before you sell it.
Don't look at her.
Or throw it out. Or get rid of it. And I was upset. And we go over there, and it's not there. And then I hear that it's there, and then I hear it's not there, and then I just hear now that she threw it out.
And what about the desk
The desk I just bought just to go with the computer.
Okay, and that you have?
I have that, yes. It's
Very
in the
good. They're
basement.
going to pick it up in 5 days, and you owe them $766 for the computer. That's all.
Thanks.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was mine. I wanted it. I went to get it. She wouldn't give it back. I called.
Told me they were coming to get it at that time and didn't give me any notice or anything like that.
Now is not a good time. How is it? Well, obviously it's not a good time. She got rid of the dang thing.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn, lại là mình đây. Đây chính là phần bảng mà hôm trước chúng mình cùng nhau luyện viết, đúng là tớ sẽ xóa đi để phục vụ bài học hôm nay nhá. Hôm nay chúng mình sẽ tiếp tục luyện đọc lại và tập viết các từ có chữ ư, bao gồm là gì? Phần này học đọc rồi đấy, chúng mình sẽ ôn tập lại nhá. Cờ ư cư hỏi cử, giờ ư sư nặng dự, là ư lư ngã lữ, cử dự và lữ. Hôm nay chúng mình sẽ viết 3 từ này lên trên bảng nhé. Các bạn tự viết trên bảng, mỗi từ là một dòng. Các bạn sẽ viết trong vở ô ly, mỗi từ đấy một dòng nhá. Từ đầu tiên là từ cử. Cờ đi với ư và thành hỏi sẽ là cờ ư cư hỏi cử. Dự giờ nhẹ nhá. Giờ đi với ư và thành nặng. Giờ ư dư nặng dự. Là đi với ư và thành ngã. Là ư lư ngã lữ. Cử dự và lữ. Như vậy chúng mình vừa tập đọc này, ôn tập lại cách đọc, cách đánh vần và viết được 3 từ cử, dự và lữ. Tương tự như vậy, các bạn sẽ luyện tập viết đến hết dòng cho mình nha. Mình sẽ có từ cử thứ 2 và từ cử thứ 3. Viết chữ cờ là nét gì? Nét cong hở trái, thêm chữ ư, dấu móc câu và dấu hỏi. Cử này. Dự, viết chữ giờ, thêm chữ ư và thành nặng. Giờ ư dư nặng dự, đúng rồi. Lữ, chữ L hôm trước mình học rồi nhá. Chữ ư và thành ngã. Lữ. Đúng rồi. Vậy thì Tứ và các bạn cùng nhau đã gì? Vừa ôn tập lại cách đọc, cách đánh vần và luyện viết các từ mà có chữ gì? Ư, đúng nào? Và đừng quên là nhấn like, đăng ký kênh của Tứ để cùng nhau tập phát âm và luyện viết thật nhiều nha. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn.